Next on Weather Underground, we are tracking Tropical Storm Barry, a dangerous storm that's going to produce a lot of rainfall, threatening the Gulf Coast from Louisiana to Mississippi. Our hurricane expert, Dr. Rick Knabb, is here to break down the very latest, including the most recent advisory. The most significant threat, as I mentioned, out of this storm, rainfall and dangerous flooding. We're talking widespread, life-threatening flooding possible. All the details coming your way next on Weather Underground. And thank you so much for staying with us on this Thursday as we continue our Weather Channel team coverage of Tropical Storm Barry. We have the newest advisory in. I'm Alex Wilson here in Lafayette, Louisiana. I'm going to give you the update here, but Dr. Knabb, Mark, I want to break down that new advisory because hurricane warnings now posted.
Yeah, absolutely, Alex and Dr. Knabb. This is a potential that we talked about yesterday, right? That we could have a disorganized, barely tropical storm, but need hurricane warnings issued at the coastline.
Yeah, and this is because they're forecasting it to reach hurricane strength just as it's reaching the coast over the next day and a half or so. And so that merits a hurricane warning. Now, not all hurricane warnings are created equal. This is not like we already have a hurricane and we know that a lot of people are going to get hurricane force winds. This is something that's forecast to become a hurricane. And when that happens, it's probably the case that most people will get tropical storm conditions, but a few will get hurricane conditions. We just don't know who. So I'll show you where the hurricane warning is here in a second. Highlight the fact that it's still a tropical storm with max winds of 40 miles per hour. Pressure down a little bit to 1,003. I don't like this number. West at only 5 miles an hour. Slow motion means more time over water, means longer duration rainfall. Slow is a problem this storm is going to have for a while to come. Now let's take a look at what's going on with the watches and the warnings, okay? And we'll zoom in on southern Louisiana here. So where you see the purple area here, that's where the hurricane warning is, and this is loading, so just give it a second. This is in, from Grand Isle. It includes Morgan City, it includes New Iberia, and you have hurricane watches on either side of there. Now again, a hurricane warning means that hurricane conditions are expected somewhere within that area, not necessarily everywhere within that area. So this is a case where you are all at risk for the hurricane conditions, but it will probably not be all of you that get it. Now, if you don't get the hurricane conditions, there's a much greater chance of the tropical storm conditions. Take a look at the new forecast track, and you'll see how it's going to have to reach hurricane strength in that short amount of time because the forecast for tomorrow afternoon is for it to have max winds of 60 miles an hour, but then it is forecast to have enough time to reach hurricane strength. Now, it is worth remembering, however, that if it does take the right side of that cone, that lessens the chance of it reaching that hurricane strength, but the forecast intensity is consistent with the forecast track. So that's why when they're forecasting hurricane intensity near the coast, got to put up a hurricane warning. The shape of the track is that similar concerning right-hand slow turn that puts a lot of folks both inside and outside of that cone at risk for the heavy rainfall. Okay, so that's still a big problem here. If you look at it on the satellite, the system itself is having problems organizing. It's kind of half of a tropical storm right now. All of the heavy rain and thunderstorms are on the south side, and that's where the tropical storm force winds have been also. The north side is drier and less windy, although it's still breezy on the coast, but it is ingesting a little bit of dry air. So the atmosphere has in some ways come to the rescue a little bit by bringing a little bit more dry air and shear than had been anticipated. And so that could help to keep the intensity and the overall structure at bay compared to what it could be if it was completely devoid of dry air and shear and was able to tap into all that warm water. But this is still going to have the opportunity to strengthen. Thunderstorms are generally on the increase in that southern semicircle. And look at how warm that water is. The fuel is still there, guys. It is still going to have that opportunity. But on the radar, you can see it's about 90 miles south of the mouth of the Mississippi River, and rain showers will be on the increase, especially tomorrow and tomorrow night into Saturday.
And that slow motion means there's still time. We don't want people to put their guard down just because there's some dry air on the north side right now. I think that will change. We're seeing thunderstorms, say, in the Panhandle. Some of that moisture will get kind of cut off the dry air.
Yeah, that warm Gulf water is going to provide plenty of fuel for it to make a recovery here.
All right, Dr. Knapp, thanks so much. I want to go back out to Alex now. Alex, this is a little bit of the waiting game, and the local governments are all waiting along with us, but also making sure that everybody is prepared for this storm's arrival.
Yeah, absolutely. At this point, preparations are what emergency managers and other officials are stressing as we wait for the approach of Tropical Storm Barry. I want to get you caught up on what we know right now in regards to the storm. Louisiana Governor John Bel Edwards has requested a pre-landfall emergency declaration from the federal government. Mandatory evacuation is underway for the east bank of Plaquemines Parish. The Southeast Louisiana Flood Protection Authority is closing floodgates, all floodgates along the Mississippi River. And here in Lafayette, Louisiana, we're in the Acadiana region where, flooding is not unfamiliar. The most recent big flood event was that event back in 2016 that a lot of people here do remember, the non-tropical depression that brought all of that flooding. We do have a flash flood watch that's going to go into effect as we've watched the recent updates to the forecast models, though seeing that heavier rain shift a little farther towards the east has obviously made people feel a little better, but nobody's letting their guard down. Now, here we've got the Vermilion River behind me. People here say it's not necessarily unusual this time of year that we see it running a bit high, or comparatively speaking to other times of the year. Only once has this, in recent years, has this actually flooded the building here along the river, the Vermilion River. It was back in 2016. However, we do anticipate that we could see some trouble down by the University of Louisiana at Lafayette. That is an area that floods very often, and with that flash flood watch in effect, for the possibility of perhaps 6 inches of rainfall here as we watch Barry move its way onshore and then move inland. That's obviously a concern. The big story today, though, guys, has really been the heat advisory in effect until this evening. Heat index, or feels like temperatures, have been around 109 this afternoon. We do have a few thunderstorms around the area that'll hopefully provide some relief, but we obviously know, Dr. Knapp, that things are changing. And even though here we are inland, we're not looking at any surge effects. Obviously, the inland flood threat is a huge concern, not just for a place like Lafayette, but points well north of here.
Yeah, absolutely. And Dr. Knapp, there are people that probably have never experienced all of the floodgates closing. That's a big deal because the river's running so high. And with the river running so high, considering what we've seen already this spring into summer, the potential of 2 feet plus of rain on top of that has to be your biggest concern.
Yeah, and the soil moisture is very high. This is a part of the country, the lower Mississippi River Valley, that really can't take much more rain, and we are going to get a lot of it. It is so important to emphasize that the threat for heavy rainfall, life-threatening inland flooding at the coast and hundreds of miles inland potentially has not gone down at all. In fact, now that we're closer to the event, we're getting a little more confident at who's at great risk for heavy rain inland flooding. So don't let the present look of the storm fool you. The rainfall will start to consolidate around this system, and as it strengthens and as it gets better organized and as it continues to move pretty slowly, it will pose a really significant rainfall threat. So what we want to do here, Mark, is we're going to compare the forecast cone to a couple of the global model rainfall projections, okay? And this will really give you an idea of how it is track dependent, but no matter what the details of the track, we know somebody's going to get a lot of rain.
Yeah, so we had that cone up there. Part of that is so important because there's that slow turn to the right. And so we say a lot of times that right side is where the worst of the impacts will be. This is going to be a lopsided storm with most of the rain on the right side. So someone on that kind of pivot point could be in for hours of the heaviest rain.
Yeah, and even potentially into days when you add up all the rounds of rain that you have a few hours on, few hours off. Here is an overlay of the forecast cone with the European model forecast of rainfall. And that European model track is generally down the middle of the cone. And so you see how it's a little bit right loaded in the right side of the cone, but you have heavy rainfall both inside and outside of the cone, so flooding could occur in those places. The GFS track is farther to the right, and so the rainfall maximum is farther to the right.
And almost all of that is outside of the cone.
Yes.
People can't just look at the cone for where the flooding will be.
Inside of the cone versus outside of the cone does not tell you who's going to get flooded, all right, because it could happen to both folks. And I wanted to show quickly the European model ensemble tracks. Look at how widely spread out. Even the European ensemble says things could vary. So that could vary where the heaviest rainfall falls. But I wanted to very quickly show this is just through tomorrow, and then we have what's going to happen tomorrow night into Saturday. But here's the real headline. For Saturday, the Weather Prediction Center has gone high risk for areas including Baton Rouge and New Orleans. That could be a damaging and deadly day.
Yeah, and it's something that on the third day, we don't see all that often. That was there for Florence, it was there for Harvey, and now for Barry. I think those are the only 3 times that the third day has had that high a risk.
So they mean business when they put that out.
Those are some big names. So you got to be prepared for that. And want to go back out to Alex. Alex, the rivers are so high. We've had so much rain this spring into summer. You mentioned the Vermilion running reasonably high, but the Mississippi is, what, 10, maybe even 12 feet above where it normally is this time of year.
Yeah, absolutely. The Vermilion here, not in unusual territory by any means, but the Mississippi River is one that we've been talking about for some time, being on the high side, dealing with moderate to major flood stage along it. And the Army Corps of Engineers, they've been watching this closely. Earlier, we talked to them about what their biggest challenge is moving forward with Barry.
The biggest challenge that we're facing is the river. We are seeing that we could rise upwards of 3 feet in New Orleans, and that would put us getting to the tops of the lowest levees that we have in that area. Fortunately, we are not seeing overtopping in the heart of New Orleans, but we do have the potential for overtopping further south down the river in, say, Plaquemines Parish.
Yeah, so this is something that has been a prolonged problem and obviously a big concern for emergency managers and officials all along the river and communities. Here's a look at the river gauges that are currently in flood stage. Again, moderate to major flooding already ongoing, and now we're going to throw more water into the mix. We look at our January through June precip, and record wettest there in Illinois, much above average through a lot of the Midwest and the Ohio Valley, and you think, okay, well, what does that have to do with the Mississippi? When you look at the Mississippi watershed, you can see what a large scope of the country is encompassed within that. So all of that water flowing to the Mississippi, and that is why it's high in places like Baton Rouge. Latest check at Baton Rouge, 42.22 feet. Forecast to crest on the 14th at 43 feet. But for Baton Rouge, it has been a long-standing issue. 186 days that river's been in flood stage since January 6th of this year. Previous record was 135 days. So this is obviously a record that has been smashed, a problem that continues, and obviously a concern that remains very, very high, a very great concern moving forward. Could we see other rivers go into flood stage and see major problems? Absolutely. You know, we're talking about big, big rainfall totals. For some communities, 10, 15, 20 inches, Dr. Knabb, would not be out of the question. Then we've also got to talk about one of the other problems that water plays in these kinds of systems, and that is that surge, that storm surge, because there are plenty of communities that are going to be vulnerable to this as well.
Yeah, even tropical storms have historically produced some very dangerous storm surge in the state of Louisiana, and this could become a hurricane. So this certainly is a saltwater problem as well. You could produce that storm surge going across normally dry ground, and it could go up the Mississippi River and cause a rise in the river even up to New Orleans as well. So even right now, in the condition the storm is in right now, it's got enough wind and enough size to it to be pushing the Gulf of Mexico waters around. And even though it doesn't look like a lot on radar, there's plenty of wind coming into Louisiana. And we're already seeing a little bit more modest water rises near the mouth of the Mississippi River and on Lake Pontchartrain, about a foot above normally dry ground right now. But with this track and intensity forecast, we're going to have an increase in those onshore winds into southeast Louisiana and to south central Louisiana. So as of this 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central Time advisory from the Hurricane Center, there have been an expansion of the storm surge watches and warnings. We now have a storm surge watch from the Alabama-Mississippi border around to Shell Beach, Louisiana, and a storm surge watch for Lake Pontchartrain. But we have the warning here for southeast and south central portions of the coast of Louisiana, and the watch goes out to Intercoastal City. The warning means the danger of life-threatening storm surge flooding coming onto normally dry ground, Mark. So this is a place where you need to evacuate if officials tell you to go.
Yeah, following those local officials and leaving when they tell you is so crucial at a time like this, because they're looking at all that local information. How exactly high is the ground? How is the forecast changing? They know that area. It's such crucial information that will be coming out of there. And still coming up here, we've got much more on the dangerous threats from Barry, including the evacuation of some communities, a community who's no stranger to tropical systems and flooding, mind you. We take you there as people prepare for Barry. Plus, moisture from Barry already causing problems as far away as the northeast. We've had flooding today around Pittsburgh. Nearby areas in Pennsylvania inundated by dangerous flash flooding through the morning rush hour, but we're not done. Look at all the green boxes into the mid-Atlantic, into the northeast. Those are flash flood warnings, and a flash flood emergency continues just to the east of Reading. Extremely heavy rain. The worst of it is now moving east.
Doug.
What do all these people have in common, Limo? Exactly. Nothing. They're completely different people. That's why they need customized car insurance from Liberty Mutual. They'll only pay for what they need. Yes, and they could save a ton. You've done it again, Limu. Only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Life doesn't give you many second chances. But a Subaru can.
You guys okay? You all right?
Eyesight with pre-collision braking, standard on the Subaru Ascent. Presenting the 3-row Subaru Ascent. Love is now bigger than ever.
Feed your imagination. Feed your excitement. Feed your hunger. When heroes get hungry, they get the $12 extra large superhero pizza at Papa John's.
Let's all experience something together. This beer, so pure you can taste it. Michelob Ultra Pure Gold. Beer in its organic form.
Try Drive Up at Target. Delivered to your car door so you can do more. More refill. More recharge. More relax. Target run and done.
When you start with a better hot dog from Oscar Mayer,
That's no way to treat a dog.
you can do no wrong.
Where did you learn that? The internet.
Yeah.
With no artificial preservatives or added nitrates or nitrites, it's all for the love of hot dogs.
We got one of those new purple mattresses, and it is amazing. You have to try it.
Oh, this doesn't feel like memory foam.
No.
This feels amazing.
Right?
What is it?
Actually, it's called Purple, and it's a completely unique comfort technology, meticulously designed to cradle and support the human body.
Cool.
For a limited time, choose a free Purple product with mattress purchase at purple.com/TV.
This is Kate.
Hey.
She takes 2 prescriptions. Kate's son Jack takes 1 too. Kate works hard and thought she had good insurance. But she still pays too much. That's no good. So Kate downloaded the GoodRx app. Now she can compare prescription prices to find the best discounts. She even beats her insurance price. Good for you, Kate. Good for you. GoodRx. Stop paying too much for your prescriptions. Download the free app today.
within our worst natural disasters are unseen stories of survival. New episodes of Defying Death, Heroes and Survivors, Sunday nights at 9, here on the Weather Channel.
A flash flood watch is in effect. Currently in our area, 77 degrees with light rain. Tonight, thunderstorms likely, low 74. Rainfall possibly over 1 inch. Friday, a stray shower or thunderstorm is possible early. Partly cloudy skies, high 87. Here's our 7-day outlook.
Welcome back into Weather Underground and our continuing coverage of Tropical Storm Barry. We anticipate this is going to cause big travel problems in the days to come. And for some, Tropical Storm Barry is already affecting travel. Carnival cruise ship on its way to New Orleans was diverted to Mobile, Alabama. The company decided to change course due to the hurricane watch on Louisiana. Louisiana's coast. They plan to bust the underway for the east bank of Plaquemines Parish. He spoke to those residents that are trying to prepare and obviously adjust their lives ahead of this storm.
This is Venice, Louisiana, about 80 miles south of New Orleans. This is where all roads stop. You can see the water is starting to come up here on this dock and the wind's picking up. This area is where the mouth of the Mississippi empties into the Gulf of Mexico. Now, not far behind me in the Gulf is where Tropical Storm Barry is churning, and people are on their way out of here. A steady flow of vehicles on the roads of Louisiana's southernmost marshes as the potential for over 20 inches of rain is coming. Mandatory evacuations for Plaquemines Parish south of New Orleans.
I'm from New Orleans and I have a fishing camp down here, and my boat stays here, so I didn't want it to float off if the water gets that high. The last one here, or one of them.
The biggest concern here is the levee system and the amount of water that could surge from Barataria Bay and the Gulf of Mexico.
We secured over $2 billion in federal levees after Katrina. It's a timely process. Many of those levees are still under construction south of here. You'll see some of the flood walls under construction. Some of the sections of back levees are not finished yet.
That's the major concern. Can the system take the brunt of so much rainfall when the Mississippi and the marshes are already at flood stage?
It's those unknowns that make people panic and err on the side of caution.
We're going to get you on there. And that's why this nursing home and the fire department is evacuating residents on buses heading out of potential flood dangers.
We're upbeat. Everyone's upbeat. We understand this is just a part of South Louisiana. This is what we have to do when a storm comes.
Meanwhile, large sandbags are being placed in vulnerable flood areas. Oil refineries are being shut down as a precaution, and floodgates are being closed. But at the Venice Marina, evacuating is not in the cards for some.
We're going to stay. We got to feed generators. We're going to have to keep power on all our food, and we got bait. We got all kinds of stuff in the big freezers, pogies.
The Army Corps of Engineers is working with local officials to identify any low-lying areas and reinforce them, while thousands of people south of New Orleans are supposed to evacuate. In Venice, Louisiana, Robert Ray, The Weather Channel.
And there in Venice, you heard that woman say, this is what we do. We know an approach of these storms, we have to change things around and react and prepare. Mark, coastal communities obviously will be under the threat of storm surge with this. And this is something that I think to a lot of people, still remains kind of a mystery what exactly storm surge is.
Yeah, and you know that combination of the fresh water falling from the sky combined with that water getting pushed in by the storm itself as the storm surge is one of the biggest concerns, including for Plaquemines Parish. You're looking at where the storm surge watches and warnings are. There are some communities in here that could see 3 to 6 feet of water over normally dry ground being pushed in by the approach of this storm, and that can be deadly. That is a lot of water moving in. Again, here's that corridor of 3 to 6 feet, 2 to 4 feet, including through Lake Pontchartrain and also back towards the intercoastal city area from Morgan City back towards the west. So these are big numbers. I want to talk a little bit more about what that means, what that could look like. Dr. Knabb shows us how storm surge can be the deadliest part of a tropical system.
A landfalling hurricane brings with it a powerful surge of salt water that can travel over land for miles into neighborhoods like this one and up rivers and streams tens of miles inland with devastating consequences. At 3 feet high above ground, water is already life-threatening and floods the lower levels of homes and businesses. Large objects can float, including cars and trucks. Driving is impossible. When water reaches 6 feet, vehicles quickly get carried away. Sharp, dangerous objects and chemicals can lurk below in the murky water. This is truly life-threatening and above the height of most people. And when water gets up to 9 feet, the first floor of homes and structures are completely flooded. There are very few places to survive when the water gets this high. This is why storm surge accounts for about half of all deaths directly caused by tropical cyclones in the United States. So please, find out if you live in an evacuation zone today and be prepared to leave when ordered to do so, because evacuating is the only way to ensure you survive a rising storm surge.
Now, the most important thing you can do is do your research, be informed on where you live and how to get the messaging from those emergency management officials. And if they tell you to go, evacuate. We're going to talk about the threat beyond the coastline, though. Areas well inland could be dealing with significant flooding from Tropical Storm Barry. We're talking 10, 15, even 20 plus inches of rain. That's right. We could be measuring rainfall in feet across a part of the country that has been so inundated with water. Our expert, Dr. Rick Knabb, is back to break down the European model, the GFS model, the differences still, the questions that remain. Our continuing coverage will be back in just a moment.
Feed your imagination. Feed your excitement. Feed your hunger. When heroes get hungry, they get the $12 extra large superhero pizza at Papa John's.
All eyes on me.
Cold lagered, cold filtered, and cold packaged for peak refreshment. The world's most refreshing beer, Coors Light.
With the Capital One Venture Card, you'll earn unlimited double miles on every purchase every day, not just airline purchases. Think about all the double miles you could be earning.
Holy moly, that's a lot of miles. Shh.
What's in your wallet?
Discover new San Pellegrino Essenza, a twist of Mediterranean flavors with the gentle bubbles of San Pellegrino. Add a twist of flavor. San Pellegrino Essenza, tastefully Italian.
So Kim, you going for a big Drive Safe and Save discount?
Yep, using the app. I've been quite vigilant.
Sharon says step on it, the meeting started.
Okay, write her back. Dear Sharon, don't mess with my discount.
Faster, Mommy, I gotta go to the bathroom.
I do too, honey, but we're gonna hold it for Mommy's discount. Easy.
But you're in labor.
Don't mess with my discount!
Get a discount up to 30% with Drive Safe and Save from State Farm.
Today's Best Western. What does that mean?
With rewards points that never expire, you get free nights fast. Now get a $20 Best Western gift card after your first stay. Book now at bestwestern.com.
Is this our new car? It's a new Buick Envision.
And I got it with Wi-Fi for all of your Wi-Fi stuff. Wireless charging for your phone. Cool. Wait till you check out the back.
It's a lot of groceries.
Look at my strong man.
Don't patronize me.
The new Buick Envision. It's full of surprises. Current eligible GM owners get up to 16% below MSRP on most of these 2019 Buick models. That's just over $7,000 on this Envision Premium.
If you live with diabetes, why fingerstick when you can scan? With the Freestyle Libre 14-day system, just scan the sensor with your reader, iPhone, or Android and manage your diabetes. With the Freestyle Libre 14-day system, a continuous glucose monitor, you can check your glucose levels anytime without fingersticks. Ask your doctor to write a prescription for the Freestyle Libre 14-day system. You can do it without fingersticks. Learn more at freestylelibre.us.
If you have moderate to severe psoriasis, little things can be a big deal. That's why there's Otezla. Otezla is not a cream. It's a pill that treats plaque psoriasis differently. With Otezla, 75% clearer skin is achievable. Don't use if you're allergic to Otezla. It may cause severe diarrhea, nausea, or vomiting. Otezla is associated with an increased risk of depression. Tell your doctor if you have a history of depression or suicidal thoughts, or if these feelings develop. Some people taking Otezla reported weight loss. Your doctor should monitor your weight and may stop treatment. Upper respiratory tract infection and headache may occur. Tell your doctor about your medicines and if you're pregnant or planning to be. Otezla, show more of you.
We prepare for the worst and hope for the best, and hopefully we'll get through this one, and it'll be just a little dry run for many more storms we know are coming.
They're all preparing along the Gulf Coast. Newest advisory from the National Hurricane Center. We now have hurricane warnings posted as Tropical Storm Barry lingers offshore, looking to make its way onshore as we head into the end of the week. Rainfall will really be the calling card of this storm. Concerns for potentially life-threatening flooding for many areas along the Gulf Coast and well inland. Thanks for staying with us here on the Weather Channel as our team has all aspects of Tropical Storm Barry covered. I'm meteorologist Alex Wilson. I want to get you caught up on what we know in regards to this storm. The system is already responsible for one death. A man died in Lee County, Florida, while saving his daughter from a rip current. It's something that Dr. Knabb has been especially concerned about. Even well away from the storm, rip currents will continue to be a threat. New Orleans Mayor LaToya Cantrell has declared a state of emergency in the city, and an evacuation order has been issued for Barrier Island, Grand Isle here in Louisiana. I'm going to have more coming up in just a moment from Lafayette, Louisiana, a community that begins under a flash flood watch tomorrow morning. But Dr. Knabb, I want to get the very latest with you. We had a new advisory not long ago, and still looking at very significant impacts from this storm.
Yeah, the risk for heavy rainfall and life-threatening inland flooding from the coast, extending perhaps hundreds of miles inland over the next several days. That has not changed. And for some folks, the risk has gone up because we're getting more certain that you're going to be getting those heavy rains out of what is currently Tropical Storm Barry, but forecast to intensify to a hurricane by the National Hurricane Center before it comes ashore. The maximum winds right now are 40 miles per hour. It's kind of lopsided right now, but it is expected to get its act together a little bit more and move slowly. And that slow motion is going to mean the long duration rainfall. Since Alex just mentioned the rip current fatality, so sad to hear about that. And we want to prevent any more as best we can by highlighting the hazard that can happen far away from the center of circulation, where the weather might be pretty good. We've got a high risk of rip currents over most of the Gulf Coast of the state of Florida, the peninsula, and the Panhandle. Really got to be careful because of the strong onshore flow there. And rip currents could occur far and wide. A lot of fatalities have happened hundreds of miles away from the center in past Gulf tropical storms and hurricanes. Here's that new forecast track, and it shows that slow bend to the right, and the forecast is for it to just get to hurricane strength right before landfall. And, you know, can't guarantee what the exact location or exact strength will be at landfall, but that's what we've got to prepare for, and a relatively slow motion northward inland through the weekend and into early next week, which will bring the heavy rainfall and the flood risk well inland. Couple of the changes with the 5 p.m. advisory. We got a hurricane warning here for Intracoastal City over to Grand Isle, and that goes inland a little ways, including New Iberia. Okay, so that is the expectation of hurricane force winds somewhere in that area in the next 36 hours. Now, if you look at the chances of sustained winds of hurricane force, they're not real high. They get to roughly 10% at any individual location over the next few days. So what that means is any one spot might have a low chance of it happening, but overall we're expecting it to happen. We just don't know who's going to get it. Your chance in your spot might be relatively small, but the chances are there. It's just a matter of who ends up getting it. The tropical storm force wind speed probabilities are greater, and these will continue to increase and go inland. This is going to be an inland wind problem in a forested area where we could have trees come down on moist soils and we could have some power outages. When is all this going to start arriving? Well, the most likely time of arrival of winds of tropical storm force, when everybody's preparations needs to be done, could be tomorrow evening in extreme southeast Louisiana, and then early Saturday morning in places like Baton Rouge and Lake Charles, guys.
And Dr. Nam, I think that that power outage threat you mentioned is going to go pretty far inland, considering the rainfall forecast that we have. It won't take much wind to knock down trees, and there's more trees the further inland you go.
Yeah, really concerned about that. And, trees can kill people falling onto homes and cars, so that's a dangerous hazard to this. It's not just about the water.
Yeah, we'll be telling people to go to the lowest level of their building several times during this event, Dr. Nab. Thank you so much. And still a lot more to come here on Weather Underground, with more on the significant threats that are posed by Barry and where life-threatening flooding is possible, including rainfall amounts of 1 foot, maybe 2, not out of the question with this storm. Plus, moisture from Barry already causing problems as far away as the northeast, as major cities like Pittsburgh and some of the outlying areas through Pennsylvania had dangerous flash flooding for the morning commute, and we still have some pretty good rains right now. Let's zoom in towards, say, D.C. with a severe thunderstorm warning on the south side of the area. Counties of Charles, Fairfax, Prince George's, including Fort Washington, including Mount Vernon, underneath that severe thunderstorm warning, plus flash flood emergencies continue in eastern Pennsylvania.
Get in for lunch now at Olive Garden with Lunch Duo starting at $6.99. Choose a favorite like lasagna or all new pasta bowls like shrimp scampi, paired with unlimited soup or salad and breadsticks. Get never-ending value for lunch at Olive Garden.
Jardiance asks, while managing your type 2 diabetes, why think about your heart?
Lower A1C helps, but type 2 diabetes still increases my risk of a fatal cardiovascular event.
And that's why there's Jardiance, the first type 2 diabetes pill that offers a life-saving cardiovascular benefit for adults who also have known heart disease.
It can significantly reduce my risk of dying from a cardiovascular event.
And it lowers my A1C with diet and exercise.
Jardiance can cause serious side effects, including dehydration, genital yeast or urinary tract infections, and sudden kidney problems. Ketoacidosis is a serious side effect that may be fatal. A rare but life-threatening bacterial infection in the skin of the perineum could occur. Stop taking Jardiance and call your doctor right away if you have symptoms of this bacterial infection, ketoacidosis, or an allergic reaction. Do not take Jardiance if you are on dialysis or have severe kidney problems. Taking Jardiance with a sulfonylurea or insulin may cause low blood sugar.
So, now what do you think?
Well, my A1C is important. There's so much more to think about.
Ask your doctor about Jardiance today.
Don't miss your golden opportunity to experience thrilling performance. Now at the Lexus Golden Opportunity Sales Event.
Get 0.9% APR for 60 months on all 2019 models.
Experience amazing at your Lexus dealer.
Geico has over 75 years of savings and service.
Whoa.
Travis and IT made it. It's amazing.
Geico
Oh, is that Travis's app? That's pretty cool, isn't it?
There's 2 of them. They're multiplying.
Geico has over 75
No, guys, it's me.
savings and
See?
service.
No, I'm real. I'm real.
He thinks he's real.
Geico. Over 75 years of savings and service.
I'm Jimmy Dean, and I wish I could tell you how I feel about a morning like this. And that includes a good hearty breakfast. You need something to kind of warm the whole body up and get it going. It's a great way to kick off your day.
knows you're the powerhouse who does it right, who knows the right tool has no equal. As a leader in outdoor power equipment, we do it right too, so you can show your yard who's boss. Now get a Craftsman string trimmer for $99. Do it right for less. Start with Lowe's.
Need a change of scenery? Kayak searches hundreds of travel sites and filters by cabin class, Wi-Fi, and more, so you can be confident you're getting the right flight at the best price. Kayak. Search one and done.
Welcome back to Weather Underground. We're bringing you hurricane coverage that you can trust and want to show you one of the observation points that we've been following. This is a buoy in the Gulf of Mexico. Now, it's on the northeast side of the center of circulation from Barry, which, remember, is the drier side. We don't have a lot of rainfall, so we don't have any squally winds going by, because right now this storm is very disorganized. We don't have a lot of convection on the north side yet. That will change, but that buoy not showing all that much at the moment. In fact, top wind speeds near 40 miles per hour are in the big thunderstorms on the south side of the circulation. Once this starts tapping into all that moisture and starts wrapping that around the center, we could see a rapid change, and that's why the forecast still calls for a hurricane coming in towards the Louisiana coastline with a very slow motion and a right turn to that motion, which means somebody, maybe in the cone or maybe just to the right of that cone that you're looking at, could be in that pivot point of the heaviest rain for a very long time. And that's a heavy rain threat that goes all the way up through the Mississippi River Valley and maybe even into the Ohio Valley by the end of the weekend into early next week. We're bringing you this information. We're, a partner with the National Hurricane Center, but we want to go to the guy who's making a lot of the decisions right now. The director of the National Hurricane Center, Ken Graham, joining us on the phone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Oh, absolutely.
So, we're about to go into another nighttime period. Can you talk about a little bit of the threats that might be worrying you, keeping you up tonight?
Yeah, it is about the water. I mean, we've had the conversation so many times looking historically about, the dangers of water. I mean, what can happen overnight? You're going to tap into this moisture. I mean, you got a center here and kind of a lopsided system. We still forecast this to get stronger and stronger with time. So as it does, you start wrapping around this convection around the center. And this keeps me up at night, without a doubt. Look at the rainfall. I mean, with time, we talk about, will it become a hurricane? Is it going to stay a tropical storm? We talk about the track and the cone. But the reality is this is what's going to be so dangerous, starting late tomorrow and into Saturday and actually stretching into early next week with time. That right there, I mean, these are values 15 inches higher. Some areas might even get 25 inches of rain. That right there is a dangerous situation.
Hey, Ken, it's Dr. Knapp. Good to see you. Good to talk with you. And most folks in Louisiana know you really well. And maybe not everybody around the country knows that you had previously been the meteorologist in charge at the New Orleans Forecast Office of the National Weather Service. I know you're concerned about folks way inland, but tell us a little bit about the unique concerns in this situation for Southeast Louisiana.
Yeah, Southeast Louisiana it's low-lying. You can get a lot of ponding of the water. I mean, travel becomes dangerous where the water covers the road and you don't know what's a ditch versus a road. A lot of ditches that drain. So low-lying area, this water just ponds, and just heavy rainfall in some of these areas can create a lot of problems with the rainfall. But not only that, Rick, I mean, just looking at the issues associated with the storm surge as well. I mean, these values get high. You get high storm surge, which means that heavy rain, some of the rivers fill up and they have a hard time draining because of the storm surge. So 3 to 6 foot in some of these areas. And we just added this in the latest advisory, 2 to 4 foot possible in portions of the western part of Lake Pontchartrain. And the other part that's so unique, some of these storm surge values don't come with the storm's landfall. They come well afterwards. You start getting a storm move inland and you start getting the winds push that water in. And some places you can get that storm surge. The peak values could come 24 hours, if not 30 hours, even after landfall.
And right over your right-hand shoulder, camera left, and around the corner is the FEMA Hurricane Liaison Team room. And I know you've probably been talking to some federal, state, and maybe local emergency managers. How is the decision support going, and what challenges are they facing in this scenario?
I think the toughest part here is when you talk about these rainfall values and you look at history, and it's so tough. We know some places are going to get some heavy rain, but where are the rain bands going to set up? So part of this decision support and this whole Weather Ready Nation initiative is really talking to those emergency managers, the federal partners, FEMA, the state partners at the state EOCs and the local parishes and counties. Where's it going to set up? It's a tough thing to prepare for when you're not exactly sure where those rain bands are going to be. I've seen over the years that this could be the core rains, but you could be 100 miles away and see one of these rain bands set up. Ocean Springs, Biloxi, maybe even to Mobile gets incredible rainfall with some flooding. So how to prepare for such an event with so much uncertainty is never an easy thing. So we're talking quite a bit with the Hurricane Liaison team right over there. We got FEMA in the building. We got Department of Defense coordinating the air flights. All these partners coming together to get ready for this event.
We have about 30 seconds left, but can you talk just a little bit about the slow motion of this storm and then the long duration that you're going to be following it after it makes landfall?
Yeah, that's always a concern. We talk about this forecast. I mean, the closer these are together, that means the slower the movement. Those are the forecast points. So the slower we go, the more time there is to have these rain bands work over the same areas over and over. So at 5 miles an hour, that's going to be a lot of rain. That's probably one of the bigger reasons that we have that rainfall forecast that we do. So as it stretches northward, coastal areas of Louisiana problems, central Louisiana, Mississippi, even up to Tennessee and Arkansas with time, that tropical moisture is just going to keep on moving north, and inland's a big problem when it comes to fatalities as well, when it comes to the flash flooding and rain. The last 3 years, 83% of the fatalities has been inland flooding, over half of those in cars. So let's talk about it.
Absolutely.
And let's prevent these.
Yeah, that slow motion and inland threats will continue. That's National Hurricane Center Director Ken Graham. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Parents have a way of imagining the worst, especially when your easily distracted teenager has the car. At Subaru, we're taking on distracted driving with sensors that alert you when your eyes are off the road. The all-new Subaru Forester. The safest Forester ever.
And Doug.
Look, Limu, a civilian buying a new car. Let's go.
Limu's right. Liberty Mutual could save you money by customizing your car insurance, so you only pay for what you need.
Oh, yeah, I've been a customer for years.
Huh.
Only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
With Domino's Carry-Out Insurance, we'll remake your order for free if anything happens to it on the way home, even if it's not your fault. Like if it's whoever that guy's chasing's fault. Or if it's man's best friend's fault. Or even if it is, ultimately, your fault. Carry out Domino's large 3-topping pizzas for $7.99 each. With Domino's Carry-Out Insurance, just bring it back and we'll remake it for free.
Sunglasses. Meet Bridge of Nose. Ball. Meet Carrie. Flying disc. Meet dog. Ice. Meet your calling. Summer. Meet your beer. Michelob Ultra Infusions. Superior light beer infused with lime pills and prickly pear cactus. Beer meets exotic fruit.
When you're not able to smile, you become closed off. I felt withdrawn, alone.
Having to live with bad teeth for so long was extremely depressing. Now I know how happy I am.
There was all the feeling good about myself that I missed. I wish that I had gone to Aspen Dental on day one and not waited 3 years.
At Aspen Dental, we're all about yes. Like yes to flexible hours and payment options. Yes to free exam and x-rays for new patients without insurance. And yes, whenever you're ready to get started, we are too. Call now at 1-800-ASPEN Dental.
Do you use catheters? Are you using the catheter that's really best for you?
Oh, yeah. For years, I'd been using one kind of catheter, and I never knew that there were other really great catheters available until Liberator sent me samples to try. If I had not tried the samples from Liberator, I might never have found the perfect catheter for me. Liberator Medical sent me a catheter that was easier for me to use right out of the package. Now that I've found the best catheter for me, it's made my life much easier. My catheters were completely paid for, not a dime out of my pocket.
There are so many innovative catheters. Get the best catheter for you. Call Liberator Medical. Get your free catheter sample pack.
Call 1-800-745-1930. That's 1-800-745-1930.
Join Liana Brackett.
And here we go.
Paul Goodlove.
If you like that, I got more on the way.
And Dr. Greg Postel. Weekend mornings starting at 9 on Weekend Recharge.
A flash flood watch is in effect. Currently in our area, 76 degrees with showers in the area. Tonight, thunderstorms likely, low 74. Rainfall possibly over 1 inch. Friday, a stray shower or thunderstorm is possible early. Partly cloudy skies, high 87. Here's our 7-day outlook.
Welcome back to Weather Underground as we continue to track Barry. Now, if you were following along the past couple of days, we've been telling you that the wind threat, although a threat, is probably pretty far down on the list. That doesn't mean it's zero. It doesn't mean there's not a wind threat at all. That's why we have hurricane warnings that have been issued right along the coastline from Grand Isle to just west of New Iberia. Someone in here could see hurricane wind conditions as our storm comes inland. As Barry approaches, hurricane watch is kind of flanking either side of that. We're also seeing some pretty good winds anticipated outside of that zone. So at any one location, the chance of hurricane force winds are reasonably low. That bright green color is 10%. However, there are tropical storm warnings that go significantly further inland because that threat will move inland, and they may actually be inland tropical storm warnings significantly further inland over time. It's just a function of time. This thing's moving so slowly. Those tropical storm conditions could move inland. So as you can see, the brighter colors here showing you that there's a much greater chance of tropical storm force winds coming into play. Right now, New Orleans sitting at that kind of 50-50 chance of tropical storm force winds. Not the biggest threat for you. The rain may wind up being the biggest threat for you, but you need to know that it will also be quite windy, which means trees coming down on the very saturated soil that we're going to be seeing. It means power outages that only make things more difficult to live through when you're dealing with a slow moving tropical system. You don't want to be out of power, but think about charging up devices, charging up extra battery packs now so you're not cut off from all information as this storm is approaching. It is not only possible, but likely that we will see those power outages not just at the coast. Think about, Little Rock to Pine Bluff. Think about Memphis to Jackson. These are areas that could see power outages because of that combination of wet soils and very gusty winds. Of course, Louisiana is preparing as this storm is going to be coming on in. We're looking at Department of Transportation crews that are, setting up kind of clearing out culverts, clearing out drainage areas, making sure that those drains will allow as much water to flow through them as possible so they are absolutely ready for very heavy rains. I don't know if it'll be completely enough to make sure that there's no flooding, but it's better than the alternative of having those blocked as a storm is approaching. And you guys have been chiming in, right? You've been asking us some questions about what to do and where to go. So let's go through some of that right now. The first one from Erica Brazauskis, I believe. Brazauskis.
Thanks, Erica.
Sorry if I'm butchering your name. It is your question, Erica. More often we hear about the term storm surge. What is that? How does it impact flooding?
Well, storm surge is saltwater flooding. This is the abnormal rise of seawater, in this case from the Gulf of Mexico, being pushed by the winds of a tropical storm or hurricane onto normally dry ground. And this can go not just blocks inland, but miles inland. And it can travel over the low-lying land of southeast and south central Louisiana. It can go up the Mississippi River. And it is historically the most life-threatening aspect of tropical storms and hurricanes. And you got to evacuate from it, according to local officials.
I think people forget that there is an inland component to storm surge, that the river can back up. And, and there's a component with that salt water being denser than the fresh water that's coming down the river, that it goes down underneath and could push up that water even significantly further up the river. That's an interesting point that people don't really think about.
And that's a component, especially the big rivers like the Mississippi, that can cause water levels to rise in places like New Orleans during this event. That's happened before. But the thing about storm surge is it is pushing the Gulf inland. You now have beachfront property a lot farther inland during the storm.
All right, Trey wants to know. Trey Harris says, where did this dry air come from? All right, we were talking about why is the north side so lopsided? A couple of days ago, it was supposed to be perfect conditions for rapid strengthening, no wind shear, no dry air, warm water. There's nothing stopping this thing. Those were all in quotes. We've been talking about that. Where did this dry air come from?
Yeah, it's over the landmass of the mid-Atlantic, southeast part of the country. And, quite frankly, the humans and the models didn't have a real good handle on that. There's a lot more of it pushing into the northern side of the system than was previously forecast. That can sometimes happen when you have a system near land. However, this is not going to tear the system apart. It is not going to prevent it, we don't think, from strengthening to a strong tropical storm and perhaps a hurricane right near landfall. And it is not going to prevent there from being devastating heavy rainfall, inland flooding. But yes, this is one silver lining in all of this, because this could be stronger today already if that dry air and shear hadn't come in.
It could be raining in southeast Louisiana already.
Yeah,
and it's not because
could be having another event like 2 days ago.
Yeah, all right. So some of that dry air is getting cut off. But here's the next question for you. Michael Williams wants to know, there is also a weak system off the Cape Verde Islands, 10% of development. What do you think about that one? Anything
developing?
Yeah, he
says, I think it's getting sheared, might not develop into anything major. Correct and correct. There's too much wind shear out there. It is a somewhat active tropical wave, but it's going to be running into too much wind shear in the central Atlantic and Caribbean. But it is a sign of things to come, that those waves will start getting more active. The water will get warmer. The shear will relax a little bit more. We'll start looking farther east later in July, and especially in the peak of the season in August.
Go on Twitter. Go on the Weather Underground Twitter handle. You'll see us asking you for questions. It gives you all the information if you want your questions answered right here. We'll be doing this over the next 3 hours or so. Team coverage continues right here on the Weather Channel as we have, our meteorologists throughout the southern plains, throughout Louisiana, into Mississippi. Our team is out there for you. So we will continue to answer your questions from the studio as our team in the field continues to get in place to bring you live coverage like no one else can.
Well, it finally happened, Zachary. Somebody burned down my she shed.
Nobody burned down your she shed, Cheryl.
Well, my she shed's on fire.
Your she shed was struck by lightning.
Zachary, is my she shed covered by State Farm?
Your she shed's covered, Cheryl.
You hear that, Victor? I'm getting a new she shed.
She shear?
Mm-hmm.
That's wonderful news.
Home insurance trusted by more people than any other. State Farm.
Feed your imagination. Feed your excitement. Feed your hunger. When heroes get hungry, they get the $12 extra large superhero pizza at Papa John's.
So now, Dish has over 80,000 on-demand movies and shows. 80,000. Why? I mean, it would take you years to get through 80,000. Thing is, it's not about 80,000. It's about one. That one movie you saw that one time on a first date with that one girl. That's why.
Dish. Tuned in to you.
Anna, did you make 2 identical purchases of $104 at Cut & Cloth?
Capital One knows life doesn't update you about your credit card. So meet Eno, the Capital One assistant that catches things that might look wrong and helps you fix them. Another way Capital One is watching out for your money when you're not. What's in your wallet?
Today's Best West starting. What does that mean?
With rewards points that never expire, you get free nights fast. Now get a $20 Best Western gift card after your first stay. Book now at bestwestern.com.
When you start with a better hot dog from Oscar Mayer,
That's
no way to treat a dog. You can do no wrong.
Where did you learn that?
The internet.
Yeah. With no artificial preservatives or added nitrates or nitrites, it's all for the love of hot dogs.
If you live with diabetes, why fingerstick when you can scan? With the Freestyle Libre 14-day system, just scan the sensor with your reader, iPhone, or Android and manage your diabetes. With the Freestyle Libre 14-day system, a continuous glucose monitor, you can check your glucose levels anytime without fingersticks. Ask your doctor to write a prescription for the Freestyle Libre 14-day system. You can do it without fingersticks. Learn more at freestylelibre.us.
Welcome back in. Tonight on Weather Underground, we are tracking Tropical Storm Barry. Multi-aspects of this storm. It's a dangerous storm, and we think this is going to threaten the Gulf Coast from Louisiana to Mississippi especially. Dr. Rick Knabb, our hurricane expert, is here to break down the very latest. The most significant threat, rainfall and dangerous flooding, including life-threatening flooding. A huge area at risk, and we have all the details for you next on Weather Underground. Our continuing coverage here on the Weather Channel. We have live crews stationed across the region to bring you the very latest on Tropical Storm Barry. I'm meteorologist Alex Wilson, live in Lafayette, Louisiana. I'll bring you the latest here in just a moment, but I want to get you caught up on what we know across the region in regards to Tropical Storm Barry. What we know is a hurricane warning is now in effect for the coast of Louisiana from Intracoastal City to Grand Isle. Louisiana Governor John Bel Edwards has requested a pre-landfall emergency declaration from the federal government, and mandatory evacuation is underway for the east bank of Plaquemines Parish right now. That's one community that's already evacuating. We anticipate we could see more problems, though, in the coming days because of all the rain that this system is likely to produce. Dr. Knabb, we've had so many systems in recent years that it's not necessarily about the strength of the system at landfall, but rather the speed and the rain production. The flooding could be really significant.
Two of the most important parameters, Mark, when we're talking about rainfall potential of a slow-moving system of any intensity.
And, you know, we got a new advisory in about an hour ago. Some big changes with that, including hurricane warnings issued. And I think some people watching may be looking at the satellite and being like, this is no hurricane, Dr. Knabb. What are they talking about?
Well, it's no hurricane yet, but it is still forecast to be one, and it is still forecast to make that curved path into Louisiana. That's bad news because that slow turn puts a lot of people on the wet right-hand side, the rainy side for days, and it is still forecast to go inland pretty slowly and bring a lot of rainfall. Winds are at 40 miles an hour, but the worst number on this graphic is 5. West at only 5 miles per hour. That gives it more time over water to strengthen, and that's a taste of how this storm is behaving by moving slowly and racking up the rainfall totals. And Mark, these forecast points are not spaced very far apart. It's not going to be speeding up a whole lot before landfall or afterward, and all of that is bad. More time over water to strengthen, more time to drop heavy rainfall.
You know, at this time yesterday, we were looking at the thunderstorms really increasing in the Gulf, but a little bit away from the center. And then by, say, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, that center jumped underneath that persistent convection. Do you think there's a chance of that happening again right now as we've got all those storms on the south side? Or is that just a function of the shear that's in place in the dry air?
Yeah, the shear and dry air are limiting the ability of the system to develop thunderstorms on the north side, but over time, especially tomorrow and tomorrow night, it'll be able to wrap things back around. And here's an indication of our confidence in that. And the folks at the Weather Prediction Center that issue these risks for excessive rainfall have taken an extraordinary step. And we'll dive deeper into this, but I didn't want to bury the headline here. This is really one of the most significant aspects of what we've learned today, is that on day 3, not today, not tomorrow, but Saturday could be one of the worst days for the heavy rainfall, where we have a high risk of flooding rains in places like New Orleans and places like Baton Rouge, and that means that it could be a damaging and deadly day. But we've, as Mark alluded to, we've got a hurricane warning. Lafayette are under tropical
elevation, flash flooding, and trees and power lines is going to be a huge component of this.
Yeah, and to get ready for all of this, tonight and tomorrow are the times to get ready, because if you look at the time of arrival of winds of tropical storm force after that particular tilt, if not impossible to do things tomorrow night, early Saturday morning, and then in northern Louisiana it would be later in Saturday. So that's why tonight and tomorrow morning, get these preps done.
All right, Dr. Knabb, we'll get back to you in just a second. Want to go back out to Alex now. Alex, it is so muggy out there. There was dry air preventing all of the storms on the north side of the circulation for now. But, I mean, heat index values were approaching 110. It is hot, and it must feel like it's about to pour at any second.
Yeah, no, it's soupy to say the least. Heat advisory is in effect here in Lafayette. And you mentioned those heat index values. I just looked, the latest check, 111. Your current feels like temperature here in Lafayette. The one positive is we've seen some thunderstorms around the area, some showers that have brought actually some gusty winds. So that's at least giving some relief, because I don't know that I would be upright otherwise without that, with that 111 degree feels like temperature. Obviously, now moving forward, we're going to put the heat advisory to bed around 8 o'clock. Into the next few days, the concern now switches to the flooding. A flash flood watch will go in effect tomorrow morning for the area. Wouldn't be out of the question to see a half foot of rain here in the Lafayette area. When we talk to people here in Lafayette, the most recent significant flooding to date, or of recent years, I should say, is that 2016 event. And there was significant flooding across the area. In fact, behind me, the Vermilion River actually was well up to the fact that it was moving into the hotel here along the banks and getting into the first floor. At this point, they said it's running on the high side, but not at an unusual level. And we look at the rainfall throughout the season, we aren't seeing as high of rainfall totals here in the Lafayette area as we've seen in other parts of the region. But obviously, this part of the country has been soaked. So the concern is there for communities like Lafayette, but especially getting into Baton Rouge and New Orleans, that we could see some real flooding problems moving forward. Here in Lafayette, some of the most susceptible areas, hearing from residents, over by the university. So if you're familiar with the University of Louisiana at Lafayette, that's one of the spots that tends to flood the quickest. Those roadways get covered. And Dr. Knabb and Mark, we talk about the next few days and what could happen. A lot of it is going to be flooding over roadways. So you're fully in charge of your own destiny in many of these situations, which is why we and emergency officials and local authorities are saying just stay off the roads in the coming days, because a lot of them will likely be covered.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Alex. And Dr. Knabb, I think it's also important to point out that this is not just a Louisiana story.
That's
that
right.
People cannot use the excuse of, well, we didn't think it was going to rain heavily in Mississippi or in Alabama or in Tennessee. This is an inland story as well, and there could be life-threatening flooding there, too.
And how many times in past rain-induced flood events have people expressed the notion that I didn't know that it was going to be this bad? Well, we're about to tell you it is about to be bad, and that is not just Louisiana. Well, let's compare the forecast track of where the center of the system, the global models are showing in terms of rainfall totals over the next few days. This is the European model depiction, and the track of the center that generates this rainfall output is roughly down the center of the cone, and that puts up into Missouri, all in
a little bit earlier on
that cone. You could have life-threatening, devastating flooding outside that cone, even with the center of circulation staying within the cone. And also, look at the European model ensembles. These are a variety of alternative scenarios based on the European model. You take any of these tracks as being reasonably within the realm of possibility, then you shift the rainfall around accordingly. So a lot of different people are at great risk here. And so that's why tomorrow into Saturday morning, flash flooding is likely in southeastern Louisiana, but it is very likely with a high risk of a damaging and deadly day in Baton Rouge, New Orleans, getting close to Lafayette. And that's just through Sunday morning. And Mark, as we've been showing, this is going to go inland into Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. This risk is going to spread a lot farther north of the high-end event here.
I don't want the takeaway, however, to be that we don't know where the heaviest rain is going to go. The takeaway should be the magnitude of that rain, the risk of the rain. Both of those global models are putting out some values of 2 feet plus in just a couple of days.
And that is why in high events like that, when you're measuring rainfall in feet, that you can get not just water covering roads, but covering entire communities. And if I have time, I wanted to show briefly what you do to survive a high-end flood event like this, okay? Don't drive on any water-covered road. Turn around, don't drown. That's an obvious one. Not everybody obeys it, but you got to this week. Don't drive around any barricade. There probably will be a lot of closed roads. Don't walk, bike, play in it. You don't know what's in that water. But here's the other one, Mark. Evacuate according to instructions from local officials. And if you're trapped in your home, go to the highest level and call 911. Why are we talking about that? Because that's the level of threat that this situation poses, that communities and homes and buildings could be flooded, and swift water rescue teams might need to come get you. That's how serious this is.
Yeah, this is not just a roadway story at this point. If you get 2 feet of rain quickly, that's a community story. That is water through the first floors of buildings.
Right.
All right, Dr. Knabb, we'll get back to you in just a second. I want to talk more to Alex because, Alex, this is tied to the season that we've had already. So much rain in the northern portion of the Mississippi River Valley. That water had to go somewhere. It's now going down to near where you are, and then we're adding all this rain on top of it.
Yeah, these communities have been dealing with prolonged flooding because of the incredibly soggy spring that we had for a lot of these areas. Obviously, all eyes on the Mississippi River, and we've been speaking frequently with the Army Corps of Engineers there about what they have in place and the systems that they have moving forward with now more rain that's coming from Barry.
When you're building levee systems in South Louisiana, one of the components is you always have to take into account subsidence. And the way you do that is you come back in periodically and you lift these levees. We've been lifting the parts of the Mississippi River levee every year for 40, 50 years. With the hurricane system on the perimeter side, over the last 5 years, the levee districts have been out lifting it. So right now, we have the system that is in place, and it's the best system we can have.
So let's take you to the Mississippi River, the flood gauges, and show you what has been going on. You look at each of these triangle icons, and they indicate a river gauge in flood stage. Many of these in moderate to major flood stage here along the southern part of the Mississippi River. Precipitation that preceded this, really through the first half of the year, January through June. You can see the record wettest there in Illinois, much above average, though, through the plains, even up to the Ohio Valley. And you go, Ohio Valley, why are we looking at that? The watershed for the Mississippi River Basin is huge, enormous amounts of rainfall coming down all across that region, or those regions, really. That all moves into the Mississippi River. So the Mississippi River at Baton Rouge has been in major flood stage, remains there at latest check, 42.22 feet. Forecast crest on the 14th at 43 feet. But Baton Rouge, a noteworthy spot because they have spent the past 186 days in flood stage. Since January 6th of this year, previous record was 100 135 days. So obviously smashing that record in Baton Rouge. And Dr. Nab, we know that now more rain is coming, not just here in Louisiana and Mississippi, but farther north through other parts of the Mississippi River Basin.
Yeah, so we've got lots of water to deal with, fresh water going way, way inland, and also the storm surge problem in the coastal areas. In some places, you could get quite a bit of both in southern and southeastern Louisiana out of this system that's already producing quite a bit of onshore flow into southeastern Louisiana. So we're already starting to see some water rises. They're modest, only about a foot above normally dry ground there in Lake Pontchartrain and out by the mouth of the Mississippi River, but those are creeping up, and as the system gets closer and strengthens, those water levels will come up, and that's why we've got the storm surge watches and warnings that have been expanded to include the watch for Lake Pontchartrain and the warning for Morgan City all around to Shell Beach, including Grand Isle. And if you look at how much storm surge we're talking about, the combination of storm surge and tide, especially if it occurs at high tide, how high could the water get above normally dry ground? Well, somewhere in this area in orange, it could be 3 to 6 feet above normally dry ground, 2 to 4 feet surrounding that. And that could make the Mississippi River peak up. Right now, that's forecast to be at 19 feet. That's assuming some things about the storm surge. Now, if you go, what's the reasonable worst case at any one spot? This potential storm surge flooding map from the Hurricane Center shows how these areas near Houma and Morgan City are at risk. However, Mark, the city of New Orleans, inside that risk reduction system, not expected to get storm surge flooding in the city. I think the rainfall is the far bigger concern there.
Yeah, so some good news, but that doesn't mean they won't flood because of the rain.
That's right.
Thank you, Dr. Nab. We'll get back to you in just a bit. Still to come here on Weather Underground, we've got much more on our dangerous threat from Barry, including the evacuation of a community who's certainly no stranger to tropical systems and flooding. So we're going to take you there as people are preparing right now for Barry. Moisture from Barry caused problems this morning. This is views from outside of Pittsburgh. You had some big flooding this morning, but there is some slow-moving storms now getting towards I-95. We've got warnings in northern Maryland and Delaware. We've got a line of storms approaching Philadelphia, and outside of that area, flash flood emergencies were issued for Berks and Montgomery. The worst of the rain has moved on, but it's moving towards Philadelphia. The potential for flooding there, as well as outside New York City, as that line goes all the way up I-95 and the Turnpike right towards New York. Heavy rain is coming your way.
Parents have a way of imagining the worst, especially when your easily distracted teenager has the car. At Subaru, we're taking on distracted driving with sensors that alert you when your eyes are off the road. The all-new Subaru Forester. The safest Forester ever.
Let's all experience something together. This beer, so pure you can taste it. Michelob Ultra Pure Gold in its organic form.
Feed your excitement. Feed your hunger. When heroes get hungry, they get the $12 extra large superhero pizza at Papa John's.
I switched to Miralax for my constipation. Stimulate your body to unblock your system naturally, and it doesn't cause bloating, cramping, gas, or a sudden urgency. Miralax. Look for the pink app.
Discover new San Pellegrino Essenza, a twist of Mediterranean flavors with the gentle bubbles of San Pellegrino. Add a twist of flavor. San Pellegrino Essenza, tastefully Italian.
So Kim, you going for a big Drive Safe and Save discount? Yep, using the app. I've been quite vigilant.
Easy.
But you're in labor.
Don't mess with my discount!
Get a discount up to 30% with Drive Safe and Save.
Lowe's knows you're the powerhouse who does it right, who knows the right tool has no equal. As a leader in outdoor power equipment, we do it right too, so you can show your yard who's boss. Now get a Craftsman string trimmer for $99. Do it right for less. Start with Lowe's.
Need a change of scenery? Kayak searches hundreds of travel sites and lets you see how your baggage will affect the cost of your flight, so you can be confident you're getting the right flight at the best price. Kayak. Search one and done.
Thank you so much.
New Purple, eh, Deb?
He's always wanted to try one.
Well, they have a 100-night trial, so...
Everyone wants to sleep better, and can. Purple makes it easy with free shipping and our 100-night trial. For a limited time, choose a free Purple product with mattress purchase at purple.com/TV.
This is Kate.
Hey.
She takes 2 prescriptions. Kate's son Jack takes 1 too. Kate works hard and thought she had good insurance. But she still pays too much. That's no good. So Kate downloaded the GoodRx app. Now she can compare prescription prices to find the best discounts. She even beats her insurance price. Good for you, Kate. Good for you. GoodRx. Stop paying too much for your prescriptions. Download the free app today.
Within our worst natural disasters are unseen stories of survival. New episodes of Defying Death, Heroes and Survivors, Sunday nights at 9, here on the Weather Channel.
A flash flood watch is in effect. Currently in our area, 77 degrees under cloudy skies. Tonight, thunderstorms likely, low 74. Winds south-southwest at 10 to 15 miles per hour. Friday, a stray shower or thunderstorm is possible early. Sunshine and clouds mixed, high 87. Here's our 7-day outlook.
Well, obviously, over the next few days, we are anticipating huge effects on travel. But Tropical Storm Barry already having repercussions on travel. In fact, a Carnival cruise ship on its way to New Orleans. It was actually diverted to Mobile, Alabama. The company decided to change course due to this hurricane watch and warnings along Louisiana's coast. They planned to bus the passengers from Mobile to New Orleans, but obviously wanted to get out of the path or the roughest waters from this one. Here we're in Lafayette, Louisiana. So this is a community now under a tropical storm warning. We anticipate the likelihood of some stronger winds that could lead to power outages, but obviously the main threat here in Lafayette is also the very heavy rain that could cause flooding. Wouldn't be out of the question to see anywhere from 3 to 6 inches of rain. Now, Robert Ray has spent the day in New Orleans, Louisiana, in the Plaquemines Parish area where a mandatory evacuation is underway. He had the chance to speak with some of the residents that are preparing for Barry's arrival.
This is Venice, Louisiana, about 80 miles south of New Orleans. This is where all roads stop. You can see the water is starting to come up here on this dock and the wind's picking up. This area is where the mouth of the Mississippi empties into the Gulf of Mexico. Now, not far behind me in the Gulf is where Tropical Storm Barry is churning, and people are on their way out of here. A steady flow of vehicles on the roads of Louisiana's southernmost marshes as the potential for over 20 inches of rain is coming. Mandatory evacuations for Plaquemines Parish south of New Orleans.
I'm from New Orleans and I have a fishing camp down here, and my boat stays here, so I didn't want it to float off if the water gets that high. The last one here, or one of them.
The biggest concern here is the levee system and the amount of water that could surge from Barataria Bay and the Gulf of Mexico.
We secured over $2 billion in federal levees after Katrina. It's a timely process. Many of those levees are still under construction south of here. You'll see some of the flood walls under construction. Some of the sections of back levees are not finished yet.
That's the major concern. Can the system take the brunt of so much rainfall when the Mississippi and the marshes are already at flood stage?
It's those unknowns that make people panic and err on the side of caution.
We're going to get you on there.
And that's why this nursing home and the fire department is evacuating residents on buses heading out of potential flood dangers.
We're upbeat. Everyone's upbeat. We understand this is just a part of South Louisiana. This is what we have to do when a storm comes.
Meanwhile, large sandbags are being placed in vulnerable flood areas. Oil refineries are being shut down as a precaution, and floodgates are being closed. But at the Venice Marina, evacuating is not in the cards for some.
We're going to stay. We got to feed generators. We're going to have to keep power on all our food, and we got bait. We got all kinds of stuff in the big freezers, pogies.
The Army Corps of Engineers is working with local officials to identify any low-lying areas and reinforce them, while thousands of people south of New Orleans are supposed to evacuate. In Venice, Louisiana, Robert Ray, The Weather Channel.
You know, a way of life for that community, but obviously every time a storm threatens, just like this one, the need comes into play to get ready, prepare, and in a lot of cases move. You know, Mark, we love to live on the coast, the beauty of the coast, but obviously it brings with it some of the other threats, including that extremely significant and dangerous threat of storm surge.
Yeah, 360 days of the year, it's great. It's the other 5 you have to watch out for. And if you're in Plaquemines Parish, storm surge is a big threat. We know that there is a storm surge potential. We've got storm surge warnings that are up through much of southern Louisiana. We now have storm surge watches up, including for Lake Pontchartrain. There could be a 2 to 4 foot surge even on the northern side of Lake Pontchartrain. And Dr. Knabb shows us what storm surge can be and why it can be the deadliest part of a tropical system.
A landfalling hurricane brings with it a powerful surge of salt water that can travel over land for miles into neighborhoods like this one and up rivers and streams tens of miles inland with devastating consequences. At 3 feet high above ground, water is already life-threatening and floods the lower levels of homes and businesses. Large objects can float, including cars and trucks. Driving is impossible. When water reaches 6 feet, vehicles quickly get carried away. Sharp, dangerous objects and chemicals can lurk below in the murky water. This is truly life-threatening and above the height of most people. And when water gets up to 9 feet, the first floor of homes and structures are completely flooded. There are very few places to survive when the water gets this high. This is why storm surge accounts for about half of all deaths directly caused by tropical cyclones in the United States. So please, find out if you live in an evacuation zone today and be prepared to leave when ordered to do so, because evacuating is the only way to ensure you survive a rising storm surge.
Water of a different kind causing problems right now across the Northeast. It does have a tropical connection to it, and you're looking towards Center City now into Philadelphia. People are trying to get out of town, and quickly. I think it's going to get a lot more difficult within the next couple of minutes. Both a severe thunderstorm warning and a flash flood warning for the city of Philadelphia, as well as Delaware and Gloucester counties. I would expect flash flooding through North Jersey all the way to New York City happening soon.
Coors Light is cold packaged. For peak refreshment. The world's most refreshing beer, Coors Light.
Is that net carbs or total? Not enough fiber. Chocolate would be good.
Snacking should be sweet and simple. The delicious taste of Glucerna gives you the sweetness you crave while helping you manage your blood sugar. Glucerna, everyday progress.
Feed your imagination. Feed your excitement. Feed your hunger. When heroes get hungry, they get the $12 extra large superhero pizza at Papa John's.
Every day, millions of people looking for healthy skin reach for Cetaphil, recommended by dermatologists. Awarded by Allure, and most of all, loved by skin. Cetaphil, the cleanser sensitive skin loves.
Let's see, Aleve is proven better on pain than Tylenol Extra Strength and lasts longer with fewer pills. So why am I still thinking about this? I'll take Aleve.
Aleve, proven better on pain.
Uh-oh. Looks like someone's still nervous about buying a new house.
Is it that obvious?
Yes, it is. You know, maybe you'd worry less if you got Geico to help with your homeowner's insurance.
I didn't know Geico helps with homeowners insurance.
Yeah, they've been doing it for years. What are you doing? Big Steve?
Thanks, man.
There he is.
Get to know Geico and see how much you could save on homeowners and renters insurance.
Is this our new car? It's a new Buick Envision. And I got it with Wi-Fi for all of your Wi-Fi stuff. Wireless charging for your phone. Cool. Wait till you check out the back. It's a lot of groceries. Look at my strong man. Don't patronize me.
The new Buick Envision. It's full of surprises. Current eligible GM owners get up to 16% below MSRP on most of these 2019 Buick models. That's just over $7,000 on this Envision Premium.
Jardiance asks, while managing your type 2 diabetes, why think about your heart?
Lower A1C helps, but type 2 diabetes still increases my risk of a fatal cardiovascular event.
And that's why there's Jardiance, the first type 2 diabetes pill that offers a life-saving cardiovascular benefit for adults who also have known heart disease.
It can significantly reduce my risk of dying from a cardiovascular event.
And it lowers my A1C with diet and exercise.
Jardiance can cause serious side effects, including dehydration, genital yeast or urinary tract infections, and sudden kidney problems. Ketoacidosis is a serious side effect that may be fatal. A rare but life-threatening bacterial infection in the skin of the perineum could occur. Stop taking Jardiance and call your doctor right away if you have symptoms of this bacterial infection, ketoacidosis, or an allergic reaction. Do not take Jardiance if you are on dialysis or have severe kidney problems. Taking Jardiance with a sulfonylurea or insulin may cause low blood sugar.
So, now what do you think?
Well, my A1C is important. There's so much more to think about.
Ask your doctor about Jardiance today.
Capital One knows life doesn't update you about your credit card. So meet Eno, the Capital One assistant that catches things that might look wrong and helps you fix them. Another way Capital One is watching out for your money when you're not. What's in your wallet?
So now, Dish has over 80,000 on-demand movies and shows. 80,000. Why? I mean, it would take you years to get through 80,000. Thing is, it's not about 80,000. It's about one. That one movie you saw that one time on a first date with that one girl. That's why.
Dish. Tuned in to you.
We prepare for the worst and hope for the best, and hopefully we'll get through this one, and it'll be just a little dry run for many more storms we know are coming.
Yeah, preparation, the name of the game right now across the state of Louisiana. Meteorologist Alex Wilson live in Lafayette, Louisiana. A community now under a tropical storm warning along with a flash flood watch. It does look like the rain from this system will be the biggest threat, but can't rule out power outages here around Lafayette because of the winds that will accompany Barry as it makes its way into Louisiana, Mississippi, and parts of the south central U.S. as we head into the upcoming weekend. Here's what we know right now about Tropical Storm Barry. The system already responsible for one death. A man died in Lee County, Florida, while saving his daughter from a rip current. So rip currents will remain a very high danger from this system, well away from the worst sensible weather. Metropolitan New Orleans now under a tropical storm warning, and New Orleans Mayor LaToya Cantrell has declared a state of emergency in that city. Our hurricane expert, Dr. Rick Knabb, has been monitoring every update, every bit of data coming in on this storm. And Dr. Knabb, you know, over the last 24 hours, we have seen that more eastward shift with especially the heaviest rain. Definitely puts a place like New Orleans, a place like Baton Rouge, squarely at risk.
Yeah, and despite the details in the track having changed a little bit since yesterday, and they could change again over the next couple of days, I don't think there's any avoiding a serious heavy rainfall and life-threatening inland flood risk, especially on Saturday, but at times before then for places like New Orleans and Baton Rouge and Lafayette, and then going northward from there, well inland to affect several states, hundreds of miles inland. From a tropical storm that is forecast to strengthen. The winds are at 40, but right now the number that I like the least is 5. West at only 5 miles per hour. It's a slow mover. It's not going to be accelerating a whole lot as it makes this right-hand turn into the north central Gulf Coast. And Alex was mentioning the rip current fatality down in southwest Florida. It is so underrated by a lot of folks how deadly rip currents can be so far away from the circulation center of a tropical storm or hurricane. It's happened so many times in the Gulf of Mexico. We've got a high risk of rip currents for most of the Gulf Coast of the state of Florida and a moderate risk on the East Coast even. And I wouldn't be going into the ocean without lifeguards present even in the Carolinas and Texas right now. Rip currents can happen in any of these locations, but the risk is exceptionally high on the coast of Florida right now because of all that onshore flow. And here is our storm trying to get its act together, fighting off a little bit of wind shear and dry air from the continental U.S., but aside from that little punch of dry air, there is a lot of upper level high pressure over the system. So it does, in the grand scheme of things, have an environment in which it can strengthen. And that will probably result in the thunderstorms wrapping more around the northeastern and northern side with time over the next couple of days, because we've got really, really warm water in places right off the Louisiana coast. It's in the low 90s. It is really, really potent fuel for this to take advantage of in the last couple of days before landfall. And we're getting far-flung, widely scattered showers and thunderstorms right now. But as the system turns to the right, slowly and intensifies and consolidates, we think the rainfall and the flood risk will get more and more serious. And look at what we are expecting for Saturday night into Sunday morning. A high risk, very likely flash flooding in places like New Orleans and Baton Rouge. And the risk is there for Lafayette and extending well inland, portions of Mississippi. That is potentially a damaging and deadly day that could flood roads. Turn around, don't drown will apply, but water could get into structures. So we're going to be talking a lot more about that. Also at 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 Central, a hurricane warning was issued from Grand Isle westward. It includes New Iberia and Morgan City. That means hurricane conditions are expected somewhere in that area in the next 36 hours. And now a tropical storm warning is in effect for places like New Orleans, Baton Rouge, and Lafayette. This is going to be a wind event as well as a water one, Mark.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of threats to this one that are going to be slow moving, and so those threats take a long time to move through any one area. Dr. Knabb, we'll get back to you in just a little bit more, as we've got a lot more coming up on Weather Underground, including this threat or multiple threats from Barry, where life-threatening flooding is possible, including rainfall amounts that could go over 2 feet in some locations. We've got some new photos coming in tonight showing some of the flooding from Newark, New Jersey. Look at that. My goodness, that is water going backwards through the storm system, coming up through the manhole covers. That is because of extreme rains that are happening right now across much of northern and central Jersey. We've got flash flood warnings in northeast Jersey, outside Patterson, Essex County, East Orange, and that's where Newark is as well. Union County just south of there seeing heavy rain, and down through Philadelphia, we've got very heavy rainfall as well, with severe thunderstorm warnings and flash flood warnings about to move through the city. Get ready. The rainfall rates pick up from here.
Let's see. Aleve is proven better on pain than Tylenol Extra Strength and lasts longer with fewer pills. So why am I still thinking about this? I'll take Aleve.
Aleve, proven better on pain.
Okay, look guys.
Life doesn't update you about your credit card, so meet Eno, the Capital One assistant that catches things that might look wrong and helps you fix them. What's in your wallet?
If you have moderate to severe psoriasis or psoriatic arthritis, little things can be a big deal. That's why there's Otezla. Otezla is not an injection or a cream. It's a pill that treats differently. For psoriasis, 75% clearer skin is achievable with reduced redness, thickness, and scaliness of plaques. For psoriatic arthritis, Otezla is proven to reduce joint swelling, tenderness, and pain. And the Otezla prescribing information has no requirement for routine lab monitoring. Don't use if you're allergic to Otezla. It may cause severe diarrhea, nausea, or vomiting. Otezla is associated with an increased risk of depression. Tell your doctor if you have a history of depression or suicidal thoughts, or if these feelings develop. Some people taking Otezla reported weight loss. Your doctor should monitor your weight and may stop treatment. Upper respiratory tract infection and headache may occur. Tell your doctor about your medicines and if you're pregnant or planning to be. Otezla, show more of you.
There were ants everywhere, thousands of them. And the problem was too big for us, but not for Orkin. And Sarah, she did a great job. It's like she never really left.
Sorry.
I wish we would have called her sooner. She's organized. She's meticulous. I mean, she's like a part of the family.
And she can do backflips on the trampoline.
Wow. How does she do that?
How pure can pure be? Our 12-step process provides 100% pure quality water. Look for kids packs from Nestle Pure Life. Fun designs and a perfect size just for your kids.
My insurance rates are probably going to double.
But Dad, you've got...
Allstate. With accident forgiveness, they guarantee your rates won't go up just because of an accident.
Smart kid.
Indeed. Are you in good hands?
Get in for lunch now at Olive Garden with Lunch Duo starting at $6.99. Choose a favorite like lasagna or all new pasta bowls like shrimp scampi, paired with unlimited soup or salad and breadsticks. Get never-ending value for lunch at Olive Garden.
Welcome back to Weather Underground. We are tracking Tropical Storm Barry right now using not only the Hurricane Hunter aircraft, which is vital because there's not a lot of observations in the Gulf, but one of those observations is here, a buoy that is located just north and east of the center. That's in the drier air, kind of away from the worst of the rain. Current winds there gusting to 31, so not that strong, but also that's without any big-time thunderstorms rolling on through. And so that shows you the potential here. This could really ramp up as those thunderstorms start wrapping around the center. Our maximum winds right now are near 40. This is as of the 4 o'clock local time, that's Central Daylight Time observations, right? And the statement from the National Hurricane Center, we're about an hour or so away from the next update coming out. But the main story here is that the forecast hasn't changed much. Still calling for a strong tropical storm or weak hurricane to do that right turn as it works its way from Louisiana into the rest of the Mississippi River Valley. So, Dr. Knabb, we've got a lot to follow here. It's a dangerous setup because of that right turn. So let's go to the man with the answers right now, Director of the National Hurricane Center, Ken Graham. Thanks for joining us again, Ken.
Absolutely.
There's so much to follow with a slow-moving storm that brings all the risks, right? We've got some storm surge flooding. We've got a heavy rain event. The rivers are high. That has to complicate the communication job that the National Hurricane Center is trying to do right now.
Yeah, it really is complicated because it's a complicated coastline, and any forecast is you've got some uncertainty. But we talk about the slow movement. I mean, slow-moving storms can be the nemesis, right? The slower the movement, the more the rain, the more you pile up some of that storm surge, and that always is the problem around southeast Louisiana. You pile up that water. Here's some of the storm surge forecasts. You got the initial movement of the storm, but the longer we hang around, the more time there is to really fill up every bayou, to fill up every area. And when you dump rainfall on that, the rainfall can't drain, and some of those bayous and rivers back up as well. So very complicated situation.
And Ken, like you said, slow motion is one of the worst aspects of any tropical storm or hurricane, and it also is going to allow it to stay over water a little bit longer than a fast-moving storm would. Talk about the complications on the intensity forecast and the placement of the various hurricane, tropical storm, and storm surge watches and warnings.
Yeah, it complicates things so much because that slow movement. It's interesting because when the plane went out there today, we found some different fixes and you saw some different swirls, and when they finally found the center, it was on track. I mean, we've really been pretty close to the track, and the model's going back and forth a little bit east and west, but it's complicated because how long it stays over that water, there's a chance for it to get geared up. We still struggle with the intensity part of this. We're getting so much better with the track, real good with the track forecast. Intensity is still tough, and in this case, we're really trying to tell people whether it has a chance to develop into a hurricane or stay a tropical storm, it doesn't matter. There's no such thing as just a tropical storm or just a Cat 1 hurricane. In this case, you're still going to get the impacts regardless of what it's called. You're going to get that storm surge and you're going to get the heavy rain.
That slow motion brings the storm over, say, the very marshy areas, almost the brown ocean, if you will. I know that term is overused a lot, but this is going to go over very, moist land and that very warm Gulf of Mexico water for so long, but eventually it does move inland. Can you talk a little bit about the partnering that you do with the local National Weather Service offices and some of those inland air, forecast handoffs that will occur, because this threat doesn't end at the coastline?
And it's such an important point that you make, and we got to talk about that, because, there's different examples we could look at. We could look at the cone, or we can look at this. Look how far inland this heavy rain stretches. Yes, we have the bullseye of very dangerous rainfall in Louisiana, 15 to 20 inches, maybe even 25. But look northward throughout Mississippi into Arkansas, even stretching up into Tennessee. That's 10 to 15 inches of rain. So that's also dangerous. As this moves further to the north, you got areas in Arkansas, Tennessee, and eventually even up into Missouri. Some of these areas could see some of those tropical rain. So when this big slug of moisture continues to move north, it becomes dangerous well inland, and that's something we have to continue to communicate.
And Ken, one of the sister centers in all of the national centers of the Weather Service to the Hurricane Center is WPC, Weather Prediction Center, and they've taken the extraordinary step today of issuing a high risk of excessive rainfall in portions of southeast Louisiana for Saturday. I wanted you to comment on the significance of that and what people need to be doing to get ready for that.
Yeah, I can't say enough about the Weather Prediction Center and how great the job that they do. They're just an incredible partner to us, so we really thank them for the hard work. And you're right, Dr. Knapp. A high risk is the highest risk that the Weather Service can issue when it comes to the potential for flash flooding. And a moderate risk and slight risk stretches all the way from Mobile all the way throughout even western Louisiana. So the high risk area where we have that bullseye of rainfall, it's the highest risk we can issue. It's the strongest message that we could send that this is a dangerous situation, and we need to be prepared for those heavy rains and the flash flooding. Let's think about our driving. Let's not drive. That's one of the factors that we talk about, and we've talked about it before. The last 3 years, 83% of the fatalities in the last 3 years from all these tropical systems. It's been busy too. Busy 3 years. 83% of the fatalities has been inland flooding, and over half of those in cars. Let's try to prevent them in this event. Stay off the roads.
Great advice there. National Hurricane Center Director Ken Graham, thanks for joining us again. Dr. Knapp, the third time in history that a high risk has been issued for 3 days away. Florence, Harvey, and now Barry. Yeah, and the WPC director, the way he puts it is, on those high-risk days, that's a damaging and deadly day if we don't take it seriously. There is still so much more to cover for you here on Weather Underground. We are expecting more outages because of trees coming down and wind. We'll detail that next.
And Doug.
Exactly. Liberty Mutual customizes your car insurance, so you only pay for what you need.
Nice. But what's up with your partner?
Oh, we just spend all day telling everyone how we customize car insurance because no two people are alike, so Limu gets a little confused when he sees another bird that looks exactly like him. Yeah. He'll figure it out. Only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
With Domino's Carry-Out Insurance, we'll remake your order for free if anything happens to it on the way home, even if it's not your fault. Like if it's whoever that guy's chasing's fault. Or if it's man's best friend's fault. Or even if it is, ultimately, your fault. Carry out Domino's large 3-topping pizzas for $7.99 each. With Domino's Carry-Out Insurance, just bring it back and we'll remake it for free.
Bon and Viv Spike Seltzer has 0 grams of sugar.
It's light and refreshing, perfect to drink by any ocean. Like this one.
Or by an unsalted ocean.
Lowe's knows you're the powerhouse who does it right, who knows the right tool has no equal. As a leader in outdoor power equipment, we do it right too, so you can show your yard who's boss. Now get a Craftsman string trimmer for $99. Do it right for less. Start with Lowe's.
Every day, millions of people looking for healthy skin reach for Cetaphil, recommended by dermatologists. Awarded by Allure, and most of all, loved by skin. Cetaphil, the cleanser sensitive skin loves.
Okay, everyone, our mission is to provide complete balanced nutrition for strength and energy.
Great tasting Ensure with 9 grams of protein and 26 vitamins and minerals. Ensure for strength and energy.
Now you can make any morning of the week
feel like the weekend with Jimmy Dean Simple Scrambles, made fresh with 2 real eggs, sausage, and cheese, and ready in seconds.
Why don't you put a Sunday morning shine on tomorrow morning's breakfast?
We got one of those new purple mattresses, and it is amazing. You have to try it.
Oh, this doesn't feel like memory foam.
No.
This feels amazing.
Right?
What is it?
Actually, it's called Purple, and it's a completely unique comfort technology, meticulously designed to cradle and support the human body.
Cool.
For a limited time, choose a free Purple product with mattress purchase at purple.com/TV.
This is Kate.
Hey.
She takes 2 prescriptions. Kate's son Jack takes 1 too. Kate works hard and thought she had good insurance, but she still pays too much. That's no good. So Kate downloaded the GoodRx app. Now she can compare prescription prices to find the best discounts. She even beats her insurance price. Good for you, Kate. Good for you. GoodRx. Stop paying too much for your prescriptions. Download the free app today.
Within our worst natural disasters are unseen stories of survival. New episodes of Defying Death, Heroes and Survivors, Sunday nights at 9, here on the Weather Channel.
A flash flood watch is in effect. Currently in our area, 77 degrees under cloudy skies. Tonight, thunderstorms likely, low 74. Winds south-southwest at 10 to 15 miles per hour. Friday, a stray shower or thunderstorm is possible early. Sunshine and clouds mixed, high 87. Here's our 7-day outlook.
Back with Lowell Duya, Chief Administrative Officer for the city of Lafayette, Louisiana. Obviously, now you're under a tropical storm warning, so preparations are in full effect right now. Obviously, we were talking before we came on air, and the floodwaters, obviously your biggest concern, and this would be the biggest event perhaps since 2016, which I'm sure a lot of residents here remember.
Yes, that's correct. But fortunately, as you can see from the river, it's low. It's a lot lower than it has been, and so the capacity should be much better. We're optimistic about that.
Yeah, you said now 3 weeks ago it was a much different Vermilion River that we were looking at behind us.
Yeah, that's right. It's at 4 right now, and it was at 14.6 just a few weeks ago. So that's the level of the river. So we've got some capacity. That's great news.
Yeah, we look at forecasts, and we could see a half foot of rain, absolutely possible within the realm of possibility, and some of this could come very quickly. So there are some areas, we talk about the university area being very prone to flooding, but you said there are a lot of people who live, you included, along the Vermilion, and so these areas could be affected, and you're thinking ahead, should they be, that you've got shelters available should you guys need to jump into action?
Yes, that's right. We've actually set up 3 schools as we call them reception areas for any rescues that we may have. We've got buses there to transport anyone. We've been meeting at the Emergency Operations Center to get all of this stuff nailed down. The police, the fire departments, all of the different municipalities. The people on this team, they're really, really good. I saw them in action firsthand in 2016, and they're great. So I think we're very, very prepared about all this.
And hopefully the recent flood event would keep it top of mind for residents, and maybe they'll be more likely to heed the warning, stay off the roads, or if they're told to leave their home, leave their home.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've got sandbag places also, but we would encourage people, if they have the means, to take a break, to go out of town, and but if they stay behind, check on your neighbors. If you've got elderly or disabled, check on them, make sure that they have somebody to call before the 911 people can get there.
And obviously your city website has information, but you're also urging people to listen to media reports, Weather Channel, local media, to get the information that they may need as we now get into the more critical time with the winds arriving tomorrow.
No, absolutely. And you mentioned the website, but I do want to thank you guys, the Weather Channel. Y'all have been tremendous. Y'all get the word out. Y'all got a huge audience, and we just can't do without y'all. We really appreciate that.
Well, we appreciate that too. You've got other people, though, really coming into action. You guys helped out on the Florida Panhandle after Hurricane Michael, and power crews already stationed across Louisiana should you guys lose power.
Yes, that's right. Crews from Gainesville and Tallahassee are here in town to help us get the power back on a lot quicker. We, as you mentioned, we actually went over there and helped them out last year. It's called a mutual aid agreement. It works out great.
Wonderful. Any other messages you want to get out to your community ahead of this one? Anything else maybe we didn't talk about, or just, reminders? We always say turn around, don't drown, being obviously the most important of the reminders, but anything else you want to stress leading up to this storm? Obviously, you guys have it covered.
Yeah, but you never know. You prepare for the worst, hope for the best, but just call 911 if you get in trouble. We've got high water vehicles stationed in strategic areas. We've got boats available, so we're as prepared as we know.
Well, do y'all. Thank you so much. We really appreciate everything you guys are doing. Obviously, this is just one community working really hard to keep their residents safe, guys. We know there are a lot of threats on the table, and a lot of things could happen, but preparation, the best thing you can do to put yourself in a case to succeed.
And hopefully that's a reassuring thought for everyone that's watching, whether they're in that area and along the Vermilion River or in the other communities that are also going under those preparation planning modes right now. There's still the luxury of time. I suppose that's a good thing that the storm is moving slowly for that. But everything else is bad when you have a slow-moving storm. It means that if you do get into the hurricane winds where we have hurricane warnings, they'll last that much longer because the storm is slow-moving. About a 10% chance now along that coast of any one point getting hurricane-force winds. So not a huge threat of hurricane-force winds, but a much higher potential for the tropical storm-force winds. Tropical storm warnings are issued anywhere in red, including the New Orleans area. Gulfport, mind you, on the right side of all this and well outside the cone, underneath a watch. You could still get tropical storm force winds even if the center is not going to go anywhere near you. And so that potential is much higher when you look towards southern Louisiana and southern Mississippi with regards to tropical storm force conditions. Remember, the soil moistures are very high. There's a little bit of bandwidth here, lower Mississippi, southern Alabama. That'll get overwhelmed very quickly with some of the rainfall rates that are anticipated here. And the winds are going to move into those saturated grounds. And the further north you go, the more tree cover there is. And so I think the power outages is going to be a big part of this story as well. Those winds will have a much easier time bringing down trees when the grounds are saturated. So that will contribute to the power outage issues. Of course, Louisiana continues to prepare for Tropical Storm Barry. The Department of Transportation crews were out in full force today, kind of cleaning out all the culverts, clearing out all the drains, making sure that when the water inevitably arrives, that it has as easy a time to exit as it possibly can. Now, is that going to save an area from completely flooding? I don't know. I don't think so. Not with some of the rainfall forecasts that we have seen. Dr. Knabb, it is still a huge potential for very heavy rains that could strand some people for some days. So they got to know what to do, what to make sure they have on hand.
Yeah, tonight is the time to prepare because from south to north in the southern half of Louisiana, tomorrow the conditions will start to deteriorate. So tonight, go shopping. And you've heard about getting bottled water, but it's important to realize you need a gallon per person per day for 7 days. The winds, the flooding could isolate you without help for a long time. First aid kit, fill your prescriptions tonight because you might not be able to go get them filled, and they could be, life-sustaining in some cases, over-the-counter meds, non-perishable foods, and also gas up the car and get cash at the ATM. Power goes out. It's a lot harder to get those things. We'll be back. Mark and I are here, and Alex in Louisiana.
Coors Light is cold filtered for brightness and clarity. The world's most refreshing beer, Coors Light.
Every day, millions of people looking for healthy skin reach for Cetaphil, recommended by dermatologists. Awarded by Allure, and most of all, loved by skin. Cetaphil, the cleanser sensitive skin loves.
So Kim, you going for a big Drive Safe and Save discount? Yep. Using the app? I've been quite vigilant.
Sharon says step on it, the meeting started.
Okay, write her back. Dear Sharon, don't mess with my discount.
Faster, Mommy, I gotta go to the bathroom.
I do too, honey, but we're gonna hold it for Mommy's discount. Easy, easy.
But you're in labor.
Don't mess with my discount.
Get a discount up to 30% with Drive Safe and Save from State Farm.
Let's see. Aleve is proven better on pain than Tylenol Extra Strength and lasts longer with fewer pills. So why am I still thinking about this? I'll take Aleve.
Aleve, proven better on pain.
Jardiance asks, while managing your type 2 diabetes, why think about your heart?
Lower A1C helps, but type 2 diabetes still increases my risk of a fatal cardiovascular event.
And that's why there's Jardiance, the first type 2 diabetes pill that offers a life-saving cardiovascular benefit for adults who also have known heart disease.
It can significantly reduce my risk of dying from a cardiovascular event.
And it lowers my A1C with diet and exercise.
Jardiance can cause serious side effects, including dehydration, genital yeast or urinary tract infections, and sudden kidney problems. Ketoacidosis is a serious side effect that may be fatal. A rare but life-threatening bacterial infection in the skin of the perineum could occur. Stop taking Jardiance and call your doctor right away if you have symptoms of this bacterial infection, ketoacidosis, or an allergic reaction. Do not take Jardiance if you are on dialysis or have severe kidney problems. Taking Jardiance with a sulfonylurea or insulin may cause low blood sugar.
So, now what do you think?
Well, my A1C is important. There's so much more to think about.
Ask your doctor about Jardiance today.
Feed your imagination. Feed your excitement. Feed your hunger. When heroes get hungry, they get the $12 extra large superhero pizza at Papa John's.
With the Capital One Venture Card, you'll earn unlimited double miles on every purchase every day, not just airline purchases.
Holy moly, that's a lot of miles!
What's in your wallet?
Today's Best Western. What does that mean?
With rewards points that never expire, you get free nights fast. Now get a $20 Best Western gift card after your first day. Book now at bestwestern.com.
Right now on Weather Underground, all eyes on Tropical Storm Barry, a dangerous storm threatening the Gulf Coast from Louisiana to Mississippi. Dr. Rick Knabb, our hurricane expert, is here to break down the very latest advisories and the latest threats for you and your family. Our most significant threat, rainfall and dangerous flooding. In some communities, that flooding could be life-threatening, and a widespread area is at risk for very heavy rainfall rates. All the details coming up next on Weather Underground. We got a lot to talk about here. I'm meteorologist Alex Wilson in Lafayette, Louisiana. One of the communities now under a tropical storm warning as we watch and anticipate the arrival of Tropical Storm Barry. Hurricane warnings, though, posted in the latest advisory from the National Hurricane Center along the Louisiana coastline. We've already seen impacts to travel and unfortunately already one death out of this storm. A man drowned in a rip current today in Florida. Want to get you the latest on what we know. I mentioned that hurricane warning now in effect for parts of Louisiana's coast. This includes Intercoastal City down to Grand Isle. Louisiana Governor John Bell Edwards has requested a pre-landfall emergency declaration from the federal government, and a mandatory evacuation is underway for the east bank of Plaquemines Parish. Hurricane expert Dr. Rick Knabb. Dr. Knabb, we've been watching this storm for a while, even, before we even had a storm, so to speak, in the embryo phase. And it's always been a concern with rainfall that we've had with this one. You hit it on the nail last check-in. The speed of these systems and the size can really affect the impacts. And here we're looking at a slow-moving, big rainmaker.
Yeah, it's a large and sloppy system, and it's probably going to get its act together a little bit more in the next couple of days, Mark, as it approaches the landfall. And then that's just the beginning of the event for so many states in the middle of the country.
We've been talking about some dry air on the north side of the system. Don't tell that to the people that are in Baton Rouge. I think that moisture is eventually going to help to kind of squeeze out that dry air. You've got some storms that are approaching Baton Rouge right now. Thunderstorms, there's some lightning involved, there's certainly some very heavy rain. As all this gets going, it's all moving south towards that, air quote, dry air on the north side of our circulation. I think that will allow for some of that consolidation, some of that wrapping around to really get going and the full strengthening mode to be on for Barry.
Yeah, all that bit of dry air and wind shear has done today was maybe keep it a little bit less strong than it would be by now and maybe limit the rainfall for some folks on the northern side. But it's not going to stop it from strengthening, we don't think, and it's not going to stop it from causing a life-threatening inland flood event. And also, winds, storm surge, rip currents. We got a lot to deal with this 40-mile-an-hour tropical storm that's moving west at only 5 miles per hour. Most of the thunderstorm activity is offshore. We can see with the northern circulation and the aid of the heating of the day, we're getting some thunderstorms on the northern side, and I'll show you on the radar in a minute where those are. The forecast from the Hurricane Center is still for intensification, and I wanted to highlight a detail here that's really important. You don't see anywhere in their forecast an explicit forecast point where they're forecasting 75 miles an hour or stronger. But what they're saying is in between some of these forecast points where it gets to 70 miles an hour, maybe late tomorrow night, early Saturday morning, between that time and the point that's inland, they're saying it's going to have a chance to become a hurricane for a short window of time, unfortunately, just as it is arriving on the coastline, we fear. And so that's why the hurricane warnings have been issued for a system that is gradually gaining in organization. I mean, the development is still happening, okay? It's just that it's no longer half of a storm. It's maybe 60% of a storm, right? It's starting to wrap in more thunderstorm activity around the center. There is that dry air punching in. But overall, Mark, there's quite a bit of upper level outflow and breathing that the system is doing. So the thunderstorm activity is going to continue to organize.
It looks like it's just a matter of time. And before we leave that kind of picture, either the satellite or the visible imagery, it shows that the impacts from this could be well outside of the cone. There are storms headed towards Houston right now. There is the potential for heavy rain through Mississippi, maybe even into Arkansas and Missouri, maybe portions that aren't in the cone. I think that you can't put your guard down, even in the Houston metro area, for very heavy tropical thunderstorms and flooding.
And we have to always remind ourselves that that cone is just the probable path of the center of circulation. Tropical storms and hurricanes are not just a point on the map. They are large and sprawling systems, certainly the case today, where you've got associated rain bands extending all the way from the Florida Peninsula to, as Mark said, the Houston area and going a fair distance inland. It's dominating the Gulf of Mexico. And that's also, by the way, why it can push the Gulf waters around and create the storm surge problem. Let's switch from this to the radar over this warm water of 90 degrees. And you can see why we're getting this line of thunderstorms going in the vicinity of where our Alex Wilson is in Lafayette area. But also we got some thunderstorms over there in Beaumont in Houston. So a lot of folks are going to feel this, and it's going to be increasing in frequency and intensity, these rain bands that are over land. And Alex mentioned that the rip current fatality. I had to highlight this too, because the weather isn't all that bad everywhere along the beaches of Florida on the Gulf side. Got to swim in guarded beaches only and ideally stay out of the water. That rip current risk can take lives. And here, Mark, is the increase in the threat for life-threatening flooding over the next few days. I mean, we're going to have the flood threat, but on Saturday, it really maximizes in New Orleans, Baton Rouge, and surrounding areas. Could be a damaging and deadly day. We got to stay off the roads and call 911 if you're trapped in your home. That's the level of severity we're dealing with.
Yeah, there could be certainly roads underwater, but potential for homes underwater. That includes New Orleans. It also includes all the way back towards the west in Lafayette. That's where Alex Wilson is for us tonight. And Alex, it is hot. It is muggy. There have been rain bands coming through. It feels tropical out there, like something's knocking on your doorstep.
Absolutely. You know, we've got the heat advisory in effect. Dr. Nab talked about those thunderstorms. We've seen those. The clouds have been bubbling up through the day, and now the thunderstorms are here, although I got to tell you, man, it provides at least some relief. Thank goodness for the breeze that we're getting from some of the passing showers and thunderstorms, because they're keeping it manageable out here. Heat indices have been as high as 111 this afternoon. That heat advisory remains in effect until this evening. Now, we lose the heat advisory this evening, and then we switch to the effects from Barry. So now we're going to begin to watch for wind and rain as we get into Friday and the upcoming weekend. So during the mid to late morning hours tomorrow, I would expect the onset of some of those stronger winds. We just talked to the chief administrative officer for the city, and he was talking about how power crews are already here across portions of Louisiana because they are anticipating the likelihood of power outages because of the winds that Barry will bring. But the real threat from this one, not just in Lafayette, but across a lot of Louisiana, Mississippi, and areas well inland, is going to be that very, very heavy rain. Here in Lafayette, wouldn't be out of the question to see a half foot of rain, and obviously that's going to cause problems here. We've got the Vermilion River behind me. It's got room, but obviously, when you talk about that much rain in a short period of time, guys, they're concerned that some of these people who live along the river could have problems. So they're preparing for that and getting shelters ready should they need them.
Yeah, they've experienced that kind of flooding before, and with a forecast of upwards of 2 feet of rain, it certainly could happen again. Alex, thank you so much. Not the only type of flooding we could see, Dr. Nab. This is such a complicated setup with all these bayous and the huge amount of water that's in the Mississippi already. Then you add a surge component on top of that, and it all goes inland.
Yeah, so many places could be dealing with one or more of the types of flooding. I think most folks have to concern themselves with flash flooding. River flooding is going to be a problem, as is storm surge. And I wanted to talk about the reliance of the rainfall forecast on the track forecast. They are very much interdependent, and it really determines the details of who gets the heaviest rain. We know a lot of people are going to get a lot of heavy rain, and it's a life-threatening inland flood risk. But exactly who gets the worst of it is track dependent. Here's the European model rainfall forecast that is dependent on and produced by a track that goes roughly down the center of the cone, but you see how the rainfall is extensive both inside and outside of the cone. And then if we switch over to the GFS model, whose track is a little bit farther to the right, you see a tremendous amount of heavy rainfall outside of that cone. And that is an indication of how uncertain we are, who's going to get the worst of it. And then when you look at the European model ensembles, you see how many different scenarios there are, both inside and outside the cone for the track. That means a lot of people are at risk for heavy rainfall. We can't pinpoint who's going to get it, but we know a lot of people will.
And if you're not familiar with ensembles, that's just small changes to that main model that we show you to kind of encompass all the different possibilities, the knowns and the unknowns, right? And so those small changes to the model are so important. Those ensembles basically cover the entire spread of the cone right now, and they are all potentially right outcomes.
They're all reasonable, and it just shows you how wide an area is at risk here. But given all of that, here is where we are most concerned about flash flooding tomorrow night into Saturday morning. It starts to ramp up in southeastern Louisiana, and there's a risk in Lafayette, there's a risk in Mobile, and going well inland. But look at the risk, how it ramps up on Saturday night into Sunday morning. This is a rare day 3 high risk of flash flooding, very likely in places like New Orleans, Baton Rouge, pretty high risk in Lafayette. This could be a damaging and deadly day that doesn't just flood roads, turn around, don't drown, but it could flood structures. That's a call 911 kind of situation, and swift water rescues could be happening.
Yeah, if you live in an area that you know is low-lying in that region, that you know floods on any given day that ends in Y, prepare now for where you might be able to go. That's a little bit higher, and it keeps you and your family that much safer, just for the mental security of it. You don't have to worry about your home going underwater.
Yeah, it's a scary situation, and we can't emphasize enough how serious this situation is at the coast and inland, water and wind, and how important it is that people stay off the roads. Even without tropical storms and hurricanes causing it this year, Mark, we've lost more than 40 people due to flooding, driving their cars on the water-covered roads, and nearly 70 lives overall due to flooding. Let's not add to that this weekend when we know it's coming.
And that's usually the flash flooding that people are caught up by. But again, we mentioned it's not the only flooding that we've seen. There are sandbag procedures underway in Grand Isle, Louisiana. Some new video to show you, because they are trying to protect themselves from the rivers, which are high. And so that won't help necessarily if you get into the flash flooding scenario. But if the rivers are backing up, then that will help you, right? And so there are sandbagging procedures going on there. Mandatory evacuation order in effect for the barrier island, not too far from there. Let's go back to Alex Wilson now in Lafayette. The Vermilion River behind you has some bandwidth, right? It can hold up a little bit more of that water rise. Yeah. Mississippi, though, is 10 to 12 feet above where it normally is this time of year, and it could be getting right up to the top of the levee in both New Orleans and in Baton Rouge.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Here on the Vermilion River, there's room, but that is not the case on the Mississippi River. And really all eyes from emergency managers and government officials to the Army Corps of Engineers. They are watching and working with the systems in place to see what they can do. Obviously, a precarious situation there for the Mississippi River in a lot of these communities. Earlier, we spoke to the Army Corps of Engineers. Take a listen.
When you're building levee systems in South Louisiana, one of the components is you always have to take into account subsidence. And the way you do that is you come back in periodically and you lift these levees. We've been lifting the parts of the Mississippi River levee every year for 40, 50 years. With the hurricane system on the perimeter side, over the last 5 years, the levee districts have been out lifting it. So right now, we have the system that is in place, and it's the best system we can have.
And let's show you the river gauges there along the Mississippi River. Moderate to major flooding ongoing across the lower Mississippi River Valley. We look at precip from January all the way to June, so the first half of the year, and much above average through the plains, through parts of the Midwest, and record wettest there in Illinois. And you go, well, why does that matter? Why does that affect the Mississippi River all the way in a place like Baton Rouge? Well, because the Mississippi River watershed encompasses this entire region that you see highlighted there in yellow. So all of that water eventually goes into the Mississippi River. So it takes time to move throughout that watershed. But now we continue to see problems in a place like Baton Rouge, where the current river stage is 42.22 feet. Forecast crest 43 feet on July 14th. We'll see what happens, though, with rain that comes in from Barry. Right now in Baton Rouge, you're at 186 days in flood stage. January 6, 2019 was when that began. That smashed our previous record of 135 days. So, Dr. Knabb, all eyes on the Mississippi River as we move forward, as well as communities that will be dealing with the significant flash flooding, river flooding, storm surge, all on the table with this system.
Yeah, we've got water to deal with at the coast and well inland, away from rivers, near rivers. Water's going to be the big problem. And historically, storm surge has taken more lives in U.S. landfalling tropical storms and hurricanes than any other hazard. And so we've got to take it seriously. And the only way to stay safe from storm surge is to evacuate. So if you are in any of these storm surge watch and warning areas, you've got to evacuate according to instructions from local officials. A storm surge warning means that life-threatening storm surge, there's a danger of it. 3 feet above normally dry ground or greater is expected somewhere in this area. And the storm surge watch means that life-threatening storm surge is possible. And here's the values we're talking about. Somewhere in this area that's painted in orange, that's where we're expecting 3 to 6 feet above normally dry ground. Now, that's the general picture, but the potential storm surge flooding map that the Hurricane Center disseminates gives us locally at any spot the reasonable worst case, and it really gives decision makers an idea of what to expect. For example, we're not expecting storm surge in the middle of New Iberia or Abbeville, but getting close to Franklin. All of these areas could get up to 6 feet, the ones that are in yellow. And then going farther south and east, Morgan City has some protection, but Houma could flood. The good news for New Orleans is we don't think the storm surge is going to get you, but that could happen other parts of Lake Pontchartrain, Mark.
Yeah, and water, a big story right now, Dr. Knabb, not only down near our tropical storm Barry, but also into the northeast corridor, where we have some new video to show you from Newark, New Jersey, where the roads are covered, right? Just standing water. One of the low-lying spots here, you can see there's an overpass off in the distance, but that's little consolation if that's your car that is now surrounded by water. People needing some help because of that. We've got storms rolling through Philadelphia right now as well. You can see that heavy rain on the camera, some slow-moving cars in the distance because of that very heavy rain. In fact, you're under a severe thunderstorm warning in Philadelphia right now. A burst of heavy rain has moved through, and a flash flood warning on top of that, because they know that you could see rainfall rates here that can overwhelm the paved over areas. You follow up the Jersey Turnpike and up I-95, Mercer, Middlesex, Somerset into central Jersey. Severe thunderstorm warning there with flash flooding through Union, up through Bergen, just outside New York City. We'll be right back after this.
How pure can pure be? Our 12-step process provides 100% pure quality water. Look for kids packs from Nestle Pure Life. Fun designs and a perfect size just for your kids.
Try Target same-day delivery. Deliver to your door so you can do more. More thrill. More skill. More chill. Target run and done.
With bipolar 1 disorder, it can feel like there's too much to do. And you need to do it all. But mania, such as unusual changes in your mood, activity, or energy levels, can leave you on shaky ground. Help take control by asking your healthcare provider about Vraylar. Vraylar treats acute mania of bipolar I disorder. Vraylar significantly reduces overall manic symptoms and was proven in adults with mixed episodes who have both mania and depression. Vraylar should not be used in elderly patients with dementia due to increased risk of death or stroke. Call your doctor about fever, stiff muscles, or confusion, which may mean a life-threatening reaction, or uncontrollable muscle movements, which may be permanent. Side effects may not appear for several weeks. High cholesterol, weight gain, high blood sugar, and decreased white blood cells, both of which can be serious or fatal, dizziness upon standing, falls, seizures, impaired judgment, heat sensitivity, and trouble swallowing may occur. Ask your healthcare provider if Vraylar can help you find your balance.
July 16th is IHOP's anniversary, so we're going back to 1950s prices and 1950s lingo. So get a move on, Daddy-O. These 58-cent short stacks, the bee's knees, the tops, total aces. July 16th, 58-cent short stacks, people.
With the Capital One Venture Card, you'll earn unlimited double miles on every purchase every day, not just airline purchases.
Holy moly, that's a lot of miles!
What's in your wallet?
Not even our competitor's best battery can match the power of Energizer, because Energizer Ultimate Lithium is the longest-lasting AA battery in the world. Energizer, backed by science, matched by no one.
Want a relaxing pedicure?
Relaxing pedicure? My feet get so dry and cracked, I need serious relief. That's why I use O'Keeffe's for healthy feet. Guaranteed relief for extremely dry, cracked feet. Thanks to O'Keeffe's, I got my feet back.
With worsening weather patterns, an aging vulnerable power grid, and the growing risk of cyber terrorism, power outages are a part of life now. That can be stressful because we depend on power more than ever. When the power goes out, we lose everything. We can't even charge our smartphones. Now more than ever, you need a Generac automatic home standby generator. With Generac, power stays on in your house, even if you're not at home. Generac's automatic home standby generators start at just $19.99. Special financing is available with affordable monthly payments. Plus, with the Generac mobile link, you can check on your generator anytime. Call or go online to schedule your free in-home assessment. And if you act right now, you'll receive our 7-year extended limited warranty, a $695 value, absolutely free. Control your power and control your life with a Generac.
Stream your news just like everything else you love with Local Now. It's completely free and ready to go when and where you are. Local Now. Find it in your favorite app store.
A flash flood watch is in effect. Currently in our area, 77 degrees with rainy conditions. Tonight, heavy thunderstorms, low 74. 1 to 2 inches of rain expected. Friday, a stray shower or thunderstorm is possible early, partly cloudy, high 87. Here's our 7-day outlook.
Well, we know in the coming days that this system is going to affect a lot of people and a lot of travel, air travel, travel on the road, even boat travel. We have seen effects already because of Tropical Storm Barry. A Carnival cruise ship on its way to New Orleans had to be diverted to Mobile, Alabama. So the company decided to change course due to the hurricane watches and warnings along the coast. They plan to bus the passengers from Mobile to New Orleans. A lot of people headed to New Orleans this weekend, by the way. There's always a lot going on in the Crescent City, but unfortunately, now we add this system in the mix and the potential for some flooding. Already mandatory evacuations underway for the East Bank of Plaquemines Parish. That's where the Weather Channel's Robert Ray spent the day, and he spoke to some residents who were preparing ahead of the storm.
This is Venice, Louisiana, about 80 miles south of New Orleans. This is where all roads stop. You can see the water is starting to come up here on this dock and the wind's picking up. This area is where the mouth of the Mississippi empties into the Gulf of Mexico. Now, not far behind me in the Gulf is where Tropical Storm Barry is churning, and people are on their way out of here. A steady flow of vehicles on the roads of Louisiana's southernmost marshes as the potential for over 20 inches of rain is coming. Mandatory evacuations for Plaquemines Parish south of New Orleans.
I'm from New Orleans and I have a fishing camp down here, and my boat stays here, so I didn't want it to float off if the water gets that high. The last one here, or one of them.
The biggest concern here is the levee system and the amount of water that could surge from Barataria Bay and the Gulf of Mexico.
We secured over $2 billion in federal levees after Katrina. It's a timely process. Many of those levees are still under construction south of here. You'll see some of the flood walls under construction. Some of the sections of back levees are not finished yet.
That's the major concern. Can the system take the brunt of so much rainfall when the Mississippi and the marshes are already at flood stage?
It's those unknowns that make people panic and err on the side of caution. We're going to get you on there.
And that's why this nursing home and the fire department is evacuating residents on buses heading out of potential flood dangers.
We're upbeat. Everyone's upbeat. We understand this is just a part of South Louisiana. This is what we have to do when a storm comes.
Meanwhile, large sandbags are being placed in vulnerable flood areas. Oil refineries are being shut down as a precaution, and floodgates are being closed. But at the Venice Marina, evacuating is not in the cards for some.
We're going to stay. We got to feed generators. We're going to have to keep power on all our food, and we got bait. We got all kinds of stuff in the big freezers, pogies.
The Army Corps of Engineers is working with local officials to identify any low-lying areas and reinforce them, while thousands of people south of New Orleans are supposed to evacuate. In Venice, Louisiana, Robert Ray, The Weather Channel.
All right, Robert, thank you. Obviously, all eyes on New Orleans in the coming days, but also coastal Louisiana. We have hurricane warnings and storm surge warnings up. Dr. Knabb, storm surge going to be yet another threat. Mark, you're looking at some of the areas that are more susceptible from storm surge. You know, we talk so much about the inland flooding, but storm surge flooding also a deadly threat.
Absolutely, especially in those low-lying areas near the Gulf of Mexico, where that Gulf of Mexico water is going to be moving on in. That is the storm surge. It's literally the Gulf getting pushed by the wind from our tropical storm, and it will march its way onto normally dry ground. So storm surge warnings have been issued from outside Morgan City across Grand Isle up towards the mouth of the Mississippi. For example, storm surge watches through Lake Pontchartrain, where there could be 2 to 4 feet, including on the north edge of the lake, and then 3 to 6 feet down near the Gulf itself. Dr. Knabb shows us how storm surge can be the deadliest part of a tropical system.
A landfalling hurricane brings with it a powerful surge of salt water that can travel over land for miles into neighborhoods like this one, and up rivers and streams tens of miles inland with devastating consequences. At 3 feet high above ground, water is already life-threatening and floods the lower levels of homes and businesses. Large objects can float, including cars and trucks. Driving is impossible. When water reaches 6 feet, vehicles quickly get carried away. Sharp, dangerous objects and chemicals can lurk below in the murky water. This is truly life-threatening and above the height of most people. And when water gets up to 9 feet, the first floor of homes and structures are completely flooded. There are very few places to survive when the water gets this high. This is why storm surge accounts for about half of all deaths directly caused by tropical cyclones in the United States. So please, find out if you live in an evacuation zone today and be prepared to leave when ordered to do so, because evacuating is the only way to ensure you survive a rising storm surge.
Thank you, Dr. Knabb. I also want to show you a new tornado warning that just came out in Burlington County, New Jersey. Here's Philadelphia, so we're on the New Jersey suburbs going up 295 for one of those kinks on the line. This is the inflow notch right in here, and so when you look at the rotation within here just north of Mount Laurel, that has a potential of a tornado.
You're a drifter? I thought you were Kevin's dad.
A little bit of both.
If you ride, you get it. Geico Motorcycle. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Life doesn't give you many second chances. But a Subaru can.
You guys okay? You all right?
Eyesight with pre-collision braking, standard on the Subaru Ascent. Presenting the 3-row Subaru Ascent. Love is now bigger than ever.
Is that net carbs or total? Not enough fiber. Chocolate would be good.
Snacking should be sweet and simple. The delicious taste of Glucerna gives you the sweetness you crave while helping you manage your blood sugar. Glucerna, everyday progress.
I'm Jimmy Dean, and I wish I could tell you how I feel about a morning like this. And that includes a good hearty breakfast. You need something to kind of warm the whole body up and get it going. It's a great way to kick off your day.
Let's see, Aleve is proven better on pain than Tylenol Extra Strength and lasts longer with fewer pills. So why am I still thinking about this? I'll take Aleve.
Aleve, proven better on pain.
Good cast, buddy.
Thanks.
From laser-measured floor liners to Sunshade, the cup phone to secure your phone, to Tech Liner for your bed and tailgate, Bump Step.
Oh, can I hold it?
Yeah, good job.
To no-drill mud flaps.
Wow, look at that.
WeatherTech has everything you need to keep your truck protected all year long. Order yours today at WeatherTech.com, the ultimate protection for your vehicle.
Every day, millions of people looking for healthy skin reach for Cetaphil, recommended by dermatologists, awarded by Allure, and most of all, loved by skin. Cetaphil, the cleanser sensitive skin loves.
Let's all experience something together. This beer, so pure you can taste it. Michelob Ultra Pure Gold. Beer in its organic form.
Following a line of storms currently moving through much of New Jersey, one small section of this now has a sign of some rotation. It's Burlington County, due east of Philadelphia, headed up 295. This type of tornado signature often moves north, kind of along the Boeing line of storms, and so it will basically be hugging 295 as it continues on its path on off towards the north and east at about 35 miles per hour. This is the part of the storm that we're most concerned about. You got a surge forward right here, rain-wrapped air, the untapped air wrapping back in. So right in here is that area where we continue to see that chance for some rotation. It seems to be broadening out a bit compared to even a couple of scans ago, which is often quite typical for this type of tornado signature, or possible tornado signature. They're often very fleeting as this rain-cooled air starts to dominate. No matter what, you're going to have very strong winds on that push from the rain and the winds and the storms that are moving through. So gusty winds for everybody with a slight chance of rotating winds as well near 295, heading towards places like Hainesport and Lumberton. Eventually, the radar site, the National Weather Service in Mount Holly, is probably watching this very carefully to see if they have to hand off jurisdiction to somebody else for a little bit. If they need to shelter, they'll be watching that very carefully as well, because that is the location of the National Weather Service office. This is just part of a line of storms that has gone through Philadelphia, but goes all the way up through central Jersey. We've had flooding from Trenton to Newark, New Jersey this evening, and then New York City right in here. You're raining now, but the worst of that rain is still on the way to you. And with all of the flash flood warnings that we've seen through North Jersey and down to almost Middlesex County there, so almost central Jersey, you have that chance for flooding heading your way. Now, this is the line of storms that came through Philadelphia and brought you all kinds of flooding as well. Some new video out of Route 422. Look at that. This is one of the downsides, I suppose, of having those concrete barriers in the roadways. They work very efficiently to keep the cars away from each other, but they also often keep the water from going through seamlessly. And so one side of the road is completely flooded. You have water then pouring over and under that barrier now. It may actually be breaking a little bit. That is a fascinating view there. And I think there's a car that is stranded on that high water side. So please, please, please be careful this evening from Philly to Jersey to New York City. We'll have more on this as it continues to develop. But we want to go back now to Alex Wilson. She's in Lafayette, Louisiana, as we continue to track Tropical Storm Barry. And Alex, there are a lot of risks with this storm from the coast and then well inland from there.
Yeah, and here in Lafayette, obviously, the main concerns are the flooding from the very heavy rain that's set to come. Could see a half foot of rain out of this system, very much in the realm of possibility here in Lafayette. Also, gusty winds. A tropical storm warning is in effect now, and we anticipate the onset of some of those stronger winds by mid to late morning tomorrow. Let's get you caught up on what we know about Tropical Storm Barry. The system already responsible for one death. A man died in Lee County, Florida, while saving his daughter from a rip current. Metropolitan New Orleans now under a tropical storm warning. Amtrak has made changes to its train schedule. Trains set to arrive or leave from New Orleans are being moved to cities outside Louisiana. So obviously travel impacts already coming down. We've seen cruise ships moved, Amtrak changing their schedule. And Dr. Knabb, with flash flooding, one of the main threats out of this system, travel could be one of the worst things you could do in coming days.
Yeah, plan to stay off the roads, or at least if you're on the periphery of the system, to plan for a longer trip to get where you're going. But if you're in the heart of this, it's going to be this weekend in Louisiana and then stretching northward. You're going to be in a situation where you need to shelter in place and stay off the roads. That's how much rain's going to fall. And Alex mentioned the rip current fatality. I wanted to again highlight that with any kind of low pressure system over the Gulf, you're going to have a lot of onshore flow, especially on the east side in Florida. And that's what's happening now with a high risk of rip currents, the whole Gulf Coast of Florida and other places experiencing that risk. And that risk is going to continue for days, even after the weather gets even better in Florida and the system eventually moves inland. You're going to still have onshore flow. That's a deadly risk. You got to swim at life-guarded beaches. The system that we've got right now is a tropical storm. This is Tropical Storm Barry. That is not moving very much. It is a 40-mile-an-hour tropical storm. That was as of the advisory at 4 p.m. Central Time. Give it 27 minutes plus or minus, maybe a little sooner than that, and the Hurricane Center will issue an intermediate public advisory, and that will have the benefit of reconnaissance data. We've got 2 planes in the air right now. The NOAA Hurricane Hunters, one of the P3s, took off from Lakeland, Florida, at about 4 p.m. this afternoon, and the Air Force Reserve C-130J took off from Biloxi, Mississippi at about 6:30 Eastern Time, 5:30 Central. The NOAA planes flying at about 10,000 feet. The Air Force flying about 5,000 feet. Doing a little air traffic control there, and we're going to get data from both of those systems, from both of those planes. I haven't seen any data from either plane to indicate that the storm has strengthened yet, but they're still out there, and we will get you the latest information on this as we get the new plane and the new intermediate public advisory in a little while. Mark, but we've got tornadoes to deal with.
Yeah, as if there wasn't enough with the tropics, we still have severe weather to watch. That's in kind of south central Jersey right now. Burlington County headed towards Mount Holly, which is the National Weather Service site. We've got this surge forward right in here, very gusty winds. But as what often happens, you have what goes up, what must come down. There's a little bit of a bending back of the wind as well, where you can get tornadoes to form. Right now, it looks like the rain-cooled air is dominating, so a straight line wind threat, the primary one.
Feed your imagination. Feed your excitement. Feed your hunger. When heroes get hungry, they get the $12 extra large superhero pizza at Papa John's.
This is Hal. This is his family. The world he's built for 72 years. This is Hal's heart. It's been torn, broken, and put back together. This is also Hal's heart. This is the cardiologist his brother recommended. And this is Hal's relief, knowing he's covered. This is Hal, his heart and memory keeper, and it's beating better than ever. This is what Medicare from Blue Cross Blue Shield does for Hal. And with easy access to quality healthcare, imagine what we can do for you. This is Medicare that cares back. This is the benefit of Blue.
Today's Best Western. What does that mean?
With rewards points that never expire, you get free nights fast. Now get a $20 Best Western gift card after your first stay. Book now at bestwestern.com.
New Shell V-Power Nitro Plus Premium Gasoline has 4 levels of defense against gunk, wear, corrosion, and friction. And that helps keep your engine running like new. It's fuel for thought.
Hey, Chuck Woolery here with a bit of a confession. I have a new favorite Emu oil. Forget the imitators. There's only one Blue Emu. Get American-made Blue Emu. It works fast and you won't stink. You're on.
Fruit Loops, a delicious part of this complete breakfast.
Welcome back to Weather Underground, where we are following multiple threats tonight. We'll get back to the tropics in just a second. Want to update you on this tornado warning that is in central, kind of south central Jersey through portions of Burlington County, heading generally towards Mount Holly. If you're familiar with the area, that happens to be where the National Weather Service Forecast Office site is. That is issuing this very tornado warning. What we've been watching is a surge forward, very gusty winds on this leading flank like this. And what is often, as is often the case, when you have that surge forward, wind kind of bends back to meet that northern edge, and you can get spin-up tornadoes right there on that kind of intersection. There is still a bit of a component where the greens and reds are right next to each other. I think this is largely becoming rain cool air dominated, and it's going to be a very strong push of straight line winds coming right up through that tornado warning area. But you can't rule out a tornado in a couple of different points there because of that kind of leading flank, the very strong wind component moving forward. So let's give you a little bit of a timing on this as this whole complex is moving northeast at about 35. It'll be getting towards East Hampton by about 5 minutes from now. Scratch Ridge by 7:40, Pine Lane by just about the top of the hour, maybe 7:45 or so. Now, this is not the only storm that we're watching across the tri-state area. In fact, it's a broken line of storms that extends from New York City now all the way down into the eastern shore of Maryland. In central Jersey, outside Edison, we have a severe thunderstorm warning that continues. We also have all kinds of flash flooding that has been a problem in northeast Jersey. Behind that rain, there's still lingering water through Philadelphia. We have flash flood warnings there. Flash flooding going on around Baltimore. And this is that same line of storms coming through the eastern shore of Maryland, also through the Potomac Sound there, eventually getting towards Delaware, Salisbury, and we can continue to follow it even further south, down 295 and down 95 to Raleigh. Raleigh under a severe thunderstorm warning, although the worst of it is now east of town in portions of Johnston and Wake County. So a busy evening for severe weather in the mid-Atlantic and down into portions of the southeast. We're also following the rest of the southeast and the tropics in particular, where we have the tropical storm Barry, winds of 40 miles per hour, a lopsided storm still, although we are now seeing some signs that the dry air that has kind of mitigated that northern end may be kind of being cut off by thunderstorms that are on land now. And I think that will help this to get kind of more symmetrical and then start really strengthening, potentially towards hurricane status before making landfall sometime late Friday into Saturday. We have to say sometime still because there is, a distinct difference if the storm is on the left side versus the right side of the track. When it's moving this slowly, how long it spends over the water as opposed to interacting with land and then starting the re-weakening trend, if you will. It will eventually move inland, and that slow motion will continue, which means the flood threat will move very far inland, will move very slowly. I think many, many, many more of you will experience flood potential than the wind, for example. The wind warnings are right at the coastline, the tropical storm warnings and the hurricane warnings. The flood potential goes almost all the way into the Ohio Valley. And that's a function of the slow-moving nature of this storm and all of the rain that we have seen already this season. Talking about some of this, earlier we spoke to the director of the National Hurricane Center. He told us about the ingredients involved in creating this storm and why it's been a little bit tricky in the forecasting aspect.
When the plane went out there today, we found some different fixes, and you saw some different swirls, and when they finally found the center, it was on track. I mean, we've really been pretty close to the track, and the model's going back and forth a little bit east and west, but it's complicated because how long it stays over that water, there's a chance for it to get geared up. We still struggle with the intensity part of this. We're getting so much better with the track, getting real good with the track forecast. Intensity is still tough, and in this case, we're really trying to tell people whether it has a chance to develop into a hurricane or stay a tropical storm, it doesn't matter. There's no such thing as just a tropical storm or just a Cat 1 hurricane. In this case, you're still going to get the impacts regardless of what it's called. You're going to get that storm surge and you're going to get the heavy rain.
The impacts change very little from strong tropical storm to weak hurricane. It's a function of a couple of miles per hour with the winds. The rest of the impacts stay exactly the same, and those impacts will affect the levees. The levees are a key part to the strategy to control flooding, but as Jackie Jarris explains, levees come with some significant problems as well.
Like the roads and bridges you use every day, levees are just another piece of the infrastructure often taken for granted. Until there's a problem. Levees are surprisingly common in the U.S. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers says 1 out of 5 counties have levees. About 100,000 miles of levees wind their way across the nation. But the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers is responsible for just 14,400 miles, or about 15%. The remaining 85,000 or so miles fall under many different local, state, and federal jurisdictions. At their simplest, a levee is just a pile of dirt or wall of concrete meant to hold back the water.
There are 4 primary reasons why levees fail. They include seepage, stability, erosion, and height.
Water can seep through the levee, weakening the structure from within. When a section of levee slides away, that's called a stability failure. So-called toe erosion can steepen the levee slope until the now unstable structure collapses. Finally, the levee just isn't high enough. Water flows over the top, causing the levee to fail from the top down. But most well-maintained levees don't fail. And today, hundreds of communities depend on levees for their livelihoods and even their lives.
And Dr. Knabb, the levees go into the, the equation when it comes to where the storm surge maps are made, the inundation maps. Those levees are there and man-controlled, and thus they're not filled in the same way on the inundation map.
Right, on the Hurricane Center's potential storm surge flooding map, there are locations where they don't attempt to forecast how high above normally dry ground the storm surge waters will get because they are presuming, depending upon the size and strength of the levee, that levee is going to protect that area. Here, I'll show you just a couple areas on this depiction from the Hurricane Center. Here is Morgan City, Louisiana. You can see how they are forecasting above normally dry ground in those yellow spots, 3 to maybe 6 feet above normally dry ground, but around Morgan City, it's hatched out because the assumption there is that the levee system will protect them down there. And then around New Orleans, you have that large hurricane risk reduction system that was the $15 billion project after Katrina, and they're not depicting anything in there, even though they're showing on the fringes of it some of the water rises there. So that is a significant amount of protection for New Orleans. It's not foolproof. It's a risk reduction system. But in this case, I think it's going to hold. There's just the surge up the Mississippi River that might cause some trouble.
Absolutely. And Dr. Knabb, I know the Hurricane Hunter aircraft is in the storm again, getting some new data in. We can quickly talk about it now, but we'll talk about it more after the break.
Intermediate public advisory coming up. There are some data out there from the NOAA plane that suggests it might be stronger. We'll tell you how much stronger in a few minutes.
So, Kim, you going for a big Drive Safe and Save discount?
Yep, using the app, I've been quite vigilant.
Sharon says step on it, the meeting started.
Okay, write her back. Dear Sharon, don't mess with my discount.
Faster, Mommy, I gotta go to the bathroom.
I do too, honey, but we're gonna hold it for Mommy's discount. Easy, easy.
But you're in labor.
Don't mess with my discount!
Get a discount up to 30% with Drive Safe and Save from State Farm.
When I am helping a customer, I need to treat everybody the way I would want them to treat my family. I want them to know that I really want to help you. That's what I'm here for.
Fixed right, priced right, right on time. The triple promise, only at Firestone Complete Auto Care.
Anna, did you make 2 identical purchases of $104 at Cut & Cloth?
Life doesn't update you about your credit card, so meet Eno, the Capital One assistant that catches things that might look wrong and helps you fix them. What's in your wallet?
July 16th is IHOP's Paniversary, so we're going back to 1950s prices and 1950s lingo. So get a move on, Daddy-O. These 58-cent short stacks, the bee's knees, the tops, total aces. July 16th, 58-cent short stacks, people.
This is your dog. He needs a walk while you're out with friends today. That's where WAG comes in. WAG lets you book a dog walker whenever you need. This is Antonio. He's great with dogs.
I've been walking dogs for 2 years now.
Plus, he's been vetted by WAG and knows his stuff.
When meeting a new dog, I always make sure they warm up to me first.
Antonio knows how to give your dog a great walk, and he fills you in on all the details. That's why you use WAG, because of great walkers like Antonio. Get your first walk free when you download the app now.
Thank you so much.
New purple, eh, Deb?
He's always wanted to try one.
Well, they have a 100-night trial, so...
Everyone wants to sleep better, and can. Purple makes it easy with free shipping and our 100-night trial. For a limited time, choose a free Purple product with mattress purchase at purple.com/TV.
Within our worst natural disasters, our unseen stories of survival. New episodes of Defying Death, Heroes and Survivors, Sunday nights at 9, here on the Weather Channel.
I switched from Dodge.
We switched from Ford.
I switched from Ram. I switched to Chevy.
We switched to Chevy. We switched to Chevy.
For dependability.
For technology.
For the muscle.
And just look at it.
Adios, Lexus.
Bye-bye, Ford.
We switched to Chevy.
And I couldn't be happier.
See for yourself why people are switching at the Chevy All-Star Open House.
Or add another Chevy to your driveway. Current GM owners can get over $5,100 below MSRP on this Equinox. Find new roads at your local Chevy dealer.
A flash flood watch is in effect. Currently in our area, 76 degrees with rainy conditions. Tonight, heavy thunderstorms, low 74. 1 to 2 inches of rain expected. Friday, a stray shower or thunderstorm is possible early. Partly cloudy, high 87. Here's our 7-day outlook.
We are awaiting the intermediate public advisory on Tropical Storm Barry to come from the National Hurricane Center any moment now, but certainly by the top of the hour at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central Time. They issue intermediate public advisories at intermediate times, halfway between that 6 hours between the 5 p.m. advisory and the 11 p.m. At 8 p.m., the intermediates come out when there are coastal watches and warnings up, which there are. We got hurricane and tropical storm warnings and storm surge warnings. They don't issue a complete new forecast track and intensity, but they can issue updates to the current intensity and the pressure and the motion, and sometimes make any changes to watches and warnings. But usually that's done on the full advisory. So we're waiting to see if the storm's gotten stronger. That's the bottom line. And these intermediate advisories tonight have the benefit of 2 planes flying at the same time. Okay, let me show you where those planes have been flying, and maybe we'll see if this advisory comes in while I'm talking. But in the meantime, let me show you where the planes have been flying. And this is the track of the NOAA plane in blue that took off from Lakeland, Florida at 4 p.m. Eastern time today. You know, and again, one of the advantages, although we certainly don't like this storm affecting us on land, one of the advantages of where this storm is neither the NOAA or the Air Force planes have to fly very far. So it's a short ferry, and NOAA has been doing this alpha pattern at 700 millibars, or about 10,000 feet up. And on the south side, within the last hour, they have found some flight level winds and some winds measured remotely with their stepped frequency microwave radiometer, the SFMR, or we affectionately sometimes call it the Smurf. And it can measure wind speeds on the ocean surface remotely from the underside of the wing. And those data suggest that it might be 5 or 10 miles an hour stronger than that 40 miles an hour. But all of those data need to be carefully quality controlled and considered what the circumstances are in which they were taken. And we'll see what the Hurricane Center does. But it's at least possible that based on those data that Barry has gotten a little bit stronger. The Air Force plane took off from Keesler Air Force Base, Biloxi, Mississippi, about 6:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 Central. And they are inbound from the northeast to southwest. They haven't gotten to the stronger winds and heavier weather yet. And I can guarantee you this is a bumpier ride in many respects than some hurricanes they might fly. These tropical storms with pockets of thunderstorms can really provide an inconsistent ride at best, Mark. So we really appreciate what they're doing tonight, and we'll see what comes out in the Intermediate Public Advisory any moment now.
Yeah, absolutely. Considering that those winds may be increasing, it's certainly something that we have to continue to watch. Now, speaking of those winds, we can talk about what is anticipated with regards to those winds. We've got a hurricane warning that is up across coastal Louisiana. There's only a small fraction of you that are actually going to be in hurricane winds and in those winds consistently. You look at the percentage chances for any 1 point, roughly 5 to 10%. Not the highest, right? But that doesn't necessarily tell the whole story, because so many more of you will be under tropical storm force winds, and that will be more than enough considering the amount of rain that we're anticipating to knock down trees, bring down power. There are real impacts. It is not just a tropical storm. It is a tropical storm that is coming your way with potentially life-threatening impacts for you. Winds that get to tropical storm force are much more likely, right? We're in that 70 approaching 80% range for the coast. New Orleans could be in that kind of 50-50 chance. Now, I talked about that potential for trees to come down. That's not just a coast story. Look how wet it has been over the Arklatex, over the Ozarks, back towards the Ohio Valley. That's where some of this moisture and some of the wind is going to be headed as you look in the longer term for this storm. You have to look in the longer term because it's going to be staying so slowly. Slow motion is going to be a continued factor with this storm, but the potential for power outages now likely from Jackson to Lafayette to New Orleans, possible as far north as Memphis, and we'll have to see if we have to expand that further, how much of that tropical wind can kind of hold on as the remnant circulation continues on that slow right arc coming towards the Ohio Valley, which also has been way out of the ordinary with regards to how much moisture there has been. So power outage potential is going to be a calling card for this storm when all is said and done. New advisory has just come out, Dr. Nabbs. Any changes that you see with that one?
Well, they took it up a notch, okay? Increased the maximum sustained winds by 5 miles per hour from 40 previously, now at 45 miles per hour. And that's a compromise between a variety of data sources, and again, in these tropical storms, some of the instrumentation is a little more difficult to interpret, and they've got flight level wind data, they've got the remotely sensed surface wind speed data, and based on everything they've seen in the NOAA and Air Force missions so far, they brought the winds up a little bit, but those missions are ongoing, so they will continue to monitor those data and maybe update the intensity again at 11 p.m. The pressure is down to 1,001 millibars. So, this intrusion of some dry air and wind shear is only having so much effect on the storm. It's not preventing it from continuing to gradually strengthen. And here's another number that has gotten worse. west at only 3 miles per hour. This thing is crawling along, and we don't like slow-moving storms. And if we look at the visible imagery of the system, if I can switch over to that, it will show you that there is some increase in organization of the system. Thunderstorms increasing on the southeast side, certainly increasing on the west side. This system is poised to strengthen, and we will break down when we come back all of the hazards, wind and water, coastal and inland. Stay with us.
People say if you have occasional constipation, you should know the location of a decent bathroom. My gut says take new Benefiber Healthy Balance. This daily supplement helps maintain digestive health naturally while relieving occasional constipation and abdominal discomfort. New Benefiber Healthy Balance.
Don't miss your golden opportunity to experience our most advanced safety technology on a full line of vehicles. Now at the Lexus Golden Opportunity Sales Event.
Lease the 2019 ES350 for $379 a month for 36 months and we'll make your first month's payment.
Experience amazing.
I can't tell you who I am or what I witnessed, but I can tell you Liberty Mutual customized my car insurance so I only pay for what I need. No.
Only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
We're Oscar Mayer Deli Fresh, and you may know us from your very first sandwich. Your mammoth masterpiece, and whatever this was. Because we make our meat with the good of the deli and no artificial preservatives. Make every sandwich count with Oscar Mayer Deli Fresh.
With Domino's Carry-Out Insurance, we'll remake your order for free if anything happens to it on the way home, even if it's not your fault. Like if it's whoever that guy's chasing's fault. Or if it's man's best friend's fault. Or even if it is, ultimately, your fault. Carry out Domino's large 3-topping pizzas for $7.99 each. With Domino's Carry-Out Insurance, just bring it back and we'll remake it for free.
I'm Jimmy Dean, and I wish I could tell you how I feel about a morning like this. And that includes a good hearty breakfast. You need something to kind of warm the whole body up and get it going. It's a great way to kick off your day.
Not even our competitor's best battery can match the power of Energizer, because Energizer Ultimate Lithium is the longest-lasting AA battery in the world. Energizer, backed by science, matched by no one.
Down there, Care, with Cottonelle. Down there, because you booked a sitter to get a wax before your beach vacation with your husband. So you use Cottonelle cleaning ripples that remove more at once for a superior clean, which feels amazing. Care. Down there, Care, with Cottonelle.
I drive up, I bring people dish. I love it. Why? Because what I bring makes people go, whoa. Over 80,000 on-demand movies and shows. A voice remote that leaves them speechless. Live TV streamed instantly. And it's all getting us some pretty big awards, but my reward is that moment when I let them drive.
Wow. Ranked #1 in customer satisfaction. Dish. Tuned into you.
How pure can pure be? Our 12-step process provides 100% pure quality water. Look for kids packs from Nestle Pure Life. Fun designs and a perfect size just for your kids.
Right now on Weather Underground, we are tracking Tropical Storm Barry, a dangerous, very slow-moving storm that is threatening the Gulf Coast from Louisiana to Mississippi. Far-reaching impacts well outside of that. Dr. Knabb is here, hurricane expert, breaking down the latest. The most significant threat may wind up being the rainfall and dangerous freshwater flooding, a life-threatening situation with widespread areas at risk. We've got all of the details right here, right now on Weather Underground. Hi, everyone. I'm meteorologist Mark Elliott. We've got Alex Wilson live in Lafayette, and I'm here with Dr. Knabb. You'll hear from him in just a second because the latest advisory is in. So, Dr. Knabb, let's talk a little bit more about that. The wind speeds have increased just a little bit further, and some signs of organization now that haven't been there through much of the rest of the day.
Yeah, it's looking like it's getting stronger, and the aircraft data confirm that. It's really good to have both, right? To have the satellite imagery to kind of get an overall sense of the pattern and the structure, but without sending the aircraft in there, it's really, really difficult to know just how strong the winds have become, because satellite estimation from a pattern like this is extraordinarily fraught with uncertainty and difficulty. But in any event, we've got 2 planes out there, a NOAA plane and an Air Force plane. And by looking at those data plus the satellite presentation, they've increased the winds to 45 miles an hour. And for tropical storms, the aircraft reconnaissance data can be, in many ways, a little more challenging to interpret. So they've made a compromise between a lot of different data that they're seeing. The pressure is a little easier to measure from the aircraft, down to 1,001. And they're giving it a motion west at 3 miles per hour, but really in the last few hours, it really hasn't moved hardly at all. This is a long-term motion plus a little bit of anticipation that it will start going again.
A generous 3.
Yeah, very generous 3. Give it a golf clap for moving maybe a little bit, but I don't like that. We don't like slow-moving storms, and that's going to be one of the personality traits of Barry here. Even if it starts to speed up a little bit, it's never going to be racing to the coast and racing inland. I want to show you where the airplanes have been, because they are some very brave men and women that are flying into the storm for us. We've got the NOAA plane flying at 10,000 feet. We've got the Air Force plane flying at about 5,000 feet, and they can fly at those lower altitudes when it's a tropical storm, but of course they don't always do that same altitude at the same time. You don't run into one another. So they got a little air traffic control going on, and it's good to get data from different altitudes to figure out what's going on. The NOAA plane has already done 1 alpha pattern, and they'll be flying in it some more before they go back to base in Lakeland. Air Force is really early in their mission, so they're going to have that data all the way up till the 11 p.m. advisory later on. Just to look at it on the visible imagery here, Mark, like you were alluding to, the organization of the system is gradually improving. It's no longer what I saw a little after lunchtime today, which was barely half a storm. Now we're starting to get, maybe 2/3 of a storm.
Yeah, that's a big difference. Because once you can wrap those thunderstorms all the way around the center, it allows for that low pressure to continue to deepen. That organization feeds off itself, and we can continue to have a strengthening storm in that excruciatingly slow motion over the very warm waters.
Yeah, and you can also see enough of the central area of this to realize we've still got some little swirls. See that one there going around the northeast side? Little swirls wrapping around the mean center, but there's some thunderstorms trying to attach to that. And then the west side is active. Some of that's heating of the day, but a lot of that is over the water.
I was going to ask you about that. Do you think that west side is just going to continue to race away from the storm? Is that going to be the end of that part of the component?
No, only for a time, because we saw this complex earlier that raced out toward the southwest. It died, but then you get a new one. So that's kind of what happens as some far-flung bands spiral out. But nevertheless, it means that this storm has a variety of hazards, including a fairly vicious line of lightning that's going through central Louisiana and dumping some locally heavy rain. That's the beginning of what's going to be our big flash flood problem. And the more organized the storm gets on satellite, the more you can start to visualize it dropping a persistent rain for days. This is the track and intensity forecast, Mark, that they will update in 3 hours at 11 p.m. Eastern time.
And even now, if any of those outer bands, the ones that are right over Lafayette, for example, slow down as they are rotating around, we could start that flood threat earlier rather than later. You need to be prepared for intense rainfall rates and flooding over a huge amount of real estate. Let's go through what else we know right now at this hour. That includes a hurricane warning that's in effect from the coast of Louisiana, from Intercoastal City over to Grand Isle. Louisiana Governor John Bel Edwards has requested a pre-landfall emergency declaration from the federal government. That allows for all kinds of extra resources to be let out. Also, the New Orleans City Hall remains closed on Friday. That's tomorrow, of course, as the city is under that tropical storm warning. Earlier, the director of the National Hurricane Center told us about the ingredients that are involved in creating this storm and why that has made it a little bit tricky on the forecast side.
Just looking at the issues associated with the storm surge as well. I mean, these values get high. You get high storm surge, which means that heavy rain, some of the rivers fill up and they have a hard time draining because of the storm surge. So 3 to 6 foot in some of these areas. And we just added this in the latest advisory, 2 to 4 foot possible in portions of the western part of Lake Pontchartrain. And the other part that's so unique, some of these storm surge values don't come with the storm's landfall. They come well afterwards. You start getting a storm move inland. and you start getting the winds push that water in. In some places, you can get that storm surge. The peak values could come 24 hours, if not 30 hours, even after landfall.
That is such a huge component, Dr. Knabb.
Yeah.
We were looking at that yesterday. We could talk about it a little bit more now. As our storm moves inland and well inland and brings an inland flood threat along with it, that flow off the Gulf of Mexico is going to be onshore for days. That will still pile up the water. It will also increase the rip current.
Yeah, it's going to be yet another example of when the center makes landfall. It is, for many reasons, just the beginning of the event. Or for some folks near the coast, it's only halfway over, and it could last long after that. And Mark, I'm going to do a little draw casting here, okay? Now, if you imagine the way the system looks like, where the thunderstorms are, if you were to put New Orleans down here, and Lake Charles here, and Baton Rouge here, you could imagine with a slow-moving system how much rain you'd be getting right now. And this is going to look more organized when it gets to the coast. So we can already start to see how this is capable of dropping inches to feet of heavy rainfall. But
modeling was suggesting 40-plus inches over that central Gulf of Mexico. So it's verifying now. It's just lucky it's not over any people yet.
Yeah, and again, the worst aspect of the storm right now is it's barely moving. And the forecast track does show moving, just not very quickly. And because of that, the various models drop inches to feet of rainfall. This is the European model rainfall forecast based on a track that, roughly speaking, goes down the middle of the cone. So you get the heaviest rainfall in the right-hand side of the cone and even outside of it. The GFS track is farther to the right, near the right side of the cone. And look at how much rain, maybe a foot or more locally, that you get outside the cone, including in New Orleans. And both models show a lot of rain falling in many states away from the coastline. But Mark, when you consider what all of these alternative scenarios based on the European model show, you could get a lot of different rainfall outcomes in terms of the details of who gets the worst. But this overall sense means a lot of folks at the coast and inland are going to get tremendous amount of rainfall with that slow-moving storm.
And while there are differences on each one of those tracks, the magnitude has been coming more and more in line.
Yes.
That the worst of the areas could be in that 12 to 18 to 24-inch rain.
Yeah, so let's break it down. Okay, it's one thing to count the raindrops and how much rain you get, but let's talk about the flooding. Where are we expecting flooding and when? Tomorrow night, Saturday morning in southeast Louisiana, that's where the greatest risk is, but it will be increasing farther inland as well. But then here is what could be one of many big days in this event in terms of the inland flood. This is a very likely high-risk area of what could be damaging and deadly rainfall-induced flooding. This is a rare occurrence for the Weather Prediction Center, upon which this is based, to issue 3 days in advance a high risk for inland flooding, and that includes New Orleans. It includes
EQ Cheeseburger Lovers deal. It gets me 2 cheeseburgers for only $4, or 2 doubles with cheese for just $5. Nice double play. Sorry, dad joke.
DQ, happy tastes good.
Every day, millions of people looking for healthy skin reach for Cetaphil, recommended by dermatologists, awarded by Allure, and most of all, loved by skin. Cetaphil, the cleanser sensitive skin loves.
Today's Best Western? What does that mean?
With rewards points that never expire, you get free nights fast. Now get a $20 Best Western gift card after your first day. Book now at bestwestern.com.
So now, Dish has over 80,000 on-demand movies and shows. 80,000. Why? I mean, it would take you years to get through 80,000. Thing is, it's not about 80,000. It's about one. That one movie you saw that one time on a first date with that one girl. That's why.
Dish, tuned in to you.
With trusted protection for all-out confidence, Depend Silhouette Briefs feature maximum absorbency, beautiful colors, and an improved fit for a sleek design and personal style. Life's better when you're in it. Be there with Depend.
Is this our new car? It's a new Buick Envision. And I got it with Wi-Fi for all of your Wi-Fi stuff.
Wireless charging for your phone.
Cool. Wait till you check out the back. It's a lot of groceries. Look at my strong man.
Don't patronize me.
The new Buick Envision. It's full of surprises. Current eligible GM owners get up to 16% below MSRP on most of these 2019 Buick models. That's just over $7,000 on this Envision Premium.
If you have moderate to severe psoriasis or psoriatic arthritis, little things can be a big deal. That's why there's Otezla. Otezla is not an injection or a cream. It's a pill that treats differently. For psoriasis, 75% clearer skin is achievable with reduced redness, thickness, and scaliness of plaques. For psoriatic arthritis, Otezla is proven to reduce joint swelling, tenderness, and pain. And the Otezla prescribing information has no requirement for routine lab monitoring. Don't use if you're allergic to Otezla. It may cause severe diarrhea, nausea, or vomiting. Otezla is associated with an increased risk of depression. Tell your doctor if you have a history of depression or suicidal thoughts, or if these feelings develop. Some people taking Otezla reported weight loss. Your doctor should monitor your weight and may stop treatment. Upper respiratory tract infection and headache may occur. Tell your doctor about your medicines and if you're pregnant or planning to be. Otezla, show more of you.
Welcome back to Weather Underground as we continue to track Barry using all of the available data that not only includes the hurricane hunters, as we've been talking about, but also the sparse but present buoy system that is in the Gulf of Mexico. We've been following this buoy for you a little bit outside of the main circulation and certainly away from a lot of the thunderstorms. Now gusts to 31 miles per hour. That's been fairly steady. Current pressure there indicated at 1,006 millibars. We know that the central pressure is a little bit lower than that. And so just one more example of the kind of data that we look at to see just how organized Tropical Storm Barry is getting. As of the latest advisory, 7 o'clock local time, 8 o'clock Eastern, winds of 45 miles per hour. Some of the data suggesting it might even be a little bit stronger than that, but there are several aircraft in the storm now. And so the National Hurricane Center is saying, hey, we'll just wait and we'll make sure that we've got the right data going in, the right amount of information going out to all of us and all of you before we raise that wind speed any further. Forecast still calls for a strong tropical storm or a weak hurricane coming in towards southern Louisiana on a very slow trajectory. Some very high rainfall rates all the way through the Mississippi River Valley, maybe even getting into the Ohio Valley, and not that that doesn't eventually drain back into the Mississippi. And so that long-term river flood story is going to get longer. A little bit earlier, we talked to the director of the National Hurricane Center. He told us about the ingredients that are involved in creating this storm thus far and why it's been rather hard to forecast because of them.
When the plane went out there today, we found some different fixes and you saw some different swirls, and when they finally found the center, it was on track. I mean, we've really been pretty close to the track, and the model's going back and forth a little bit east and west, but it's complicated because how long it stays over that water, there's a chance for it to get geared up. We still struggle with the intensity part of this. We're getting so much better with the track, getting real good with the track forecast. Intensity is still tough. And in this case, we're really trying to tell people whether it has a chance to develop into a hurricane or stay a tropical storm, it doesn't matter. There's no such thing as just a tropical storm or just a Cat 1 hurricane. In this case, you're still going to get the impacts regardless of what it's called. You're going to get that storm surge and you're going to get the heavy rain.
Yeah, that heavy rain will go much further inland. Just a little bit inland, our own Alex Wilson is in Lafayette, Louisiana. Alex, good to have you back now that that line of storms, that kind of outer fringe band has moved through. Had all kinds of lightning in your area.
Yeah, no, we can't get too excited because we've got more storms headed our way. It's been the norm this afternoon. We've been watching those storms really with all the tropical moisture that we've got moving through the area and outside the circulation, those storms moving from northeast to southwest. So we've got another one that's going to be diving into the Lafayette area. You can hear the distant rumbles of thunder that we anticipate are going to get a lot closer sooner here. Here in Lafayette, today it was all about a heat advisory actually in effect. I had a heat advisory for heat index values as high as 111 earlier this afternoon. Now all attention on Tropical Storm Barry. A tropical storm warning is in effect right now, and flash flood watches begin tomorrow morning. That will be the main threat here for Lafayette, watching for the possibility of perhaps 6 inches of rainfall. Obviously, a lot of rain in a short period of time is going to inundate some of the roads across this community, but also we watch the Vermilion River. You can see that one. The good news is there is room. It was much higher, about 10 feet higher a couple weeks ago. We've seen it go down a bit. So talking to the chief administrative officer for the city, he said, the good news is that can take some water. The bad news is if we get too much water, people who live along the river could still see issues in terms of water getting close to or perhaps into their homes. So they're taking all precautions. They're getting things ready so that people, if they do need to evacuate, have somewhere to go here in Lafayette. But really the best advice, as we've been stressing, if you don't have to travel within the next 48 hours, don't do it. Mark?
Yeah, absolutely. We've been watching the flash flood watches expanding across the lower Mississippi Valley, but that's not the extent of the risk here. Tropical Storm Barry's first victim, a 47-year-old man who died Tuesday night after trying to save his daughter from a rip current. That happened off of Upper Captiva Island on the Gulf Coast of southern Florida, far away from the true center of Barry. The man's wife says she spotted him and his daughter struggling in the water. She jumped in, managed to take the daughter from her husband and make it back to shore. But at that time, he disappeared. The sad news, his body was found several hours later. Dr. Knabb, we hate hearing stories like this.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking.
Yet we almost anticipate it happening with a high risk of rip currents so far from the center that the weather conditions are beautiful. You just have to know that rip current risk is there.
Yeah, in fact, we've seen this happen far too many times before in past tropical storms and hurricanes, including in the Gulf of Mexico. In fact, we've had landfalling storms and hurricanes down in southwestern Gulf in Mexico that have killed people due to rip currents on the east coast of Florida. That's how far and wide the rip current risk exists when you've got this large of a circulation, especially in the eastern Gulf of Mexico. This strong of a flow of a strengthening system is going to increase onshore flow into these Gulf beaches. So this is just today. The rip current risk has been high today for nearly all of the Gulf Coast of Florida, the peninsula and the Panhandle, and those beautiful beaches on the coast of Alabama. This risk is not going to go away. In fact, if anything, it's going to be going up. And Mark, one thing to keep in mind is it will be a multi-day event, not just up to the time of landfall of the center of Barry, but after it goes well inland, we're going to have a massive southerly flow into the northern Gulf. I think nearly every beach in the Gulf of Mexico, Texas to Florida, will be dangerous for rip currents at that point. It's dangerous every day, but this just ramps it way, way up.
That water piles up. The wind moves the water, and we talk about that both with the rip currents and with the storm surge. They're different, but they're related, right? That onshore flow is moving the water. For the rip current, it has to, the pressure builds up. It has to exit through the breaks in the sandbar. And so you get these huge rip currents. For the storm surge, it just piles up on land, right?
Yeah,
it just marches forward.
Right. Yeah, that's the fundamental difference. Storm surge is salt water coming onto normally dry ground. And we're already starting to see indications of that water rise at the coastline. These gauges are indicating how high above normally dry ground the water is getting at the coast. This gauge on the south shore of Lake Pontchartrain has been slowly going up. It's up to 1.3 feet. A foot down there at the mouth of the Mississippi River. But this is just the beginning. That's just a taste of what's to come as this system curls around and you get an increased onshore flow into Louisiana from a stronger system. We're going to have storm surge that's life-threatening. The storm surge warning is where you have a danger of life-threatening storm surge. We're talking 3 feet to 6 feet above normally dry ground. It's possible in those storm surge watches. You got to find out if emergency managers are telling you to evacuate in these areas. You see the orange area where it's the greatest risk. And that potential storm surge flooding map is used by decision makers, Mark, to decide who's really at risk, because it's just important to know who will get storm surge and who won't.
Yeah, that means you can maybe evacuate to somewhere slightly more inland, slightly more elevated. We'll be right back.
Well, it finally happened, Zachary. Somebody burned down my she shed.
Nobody burned down your she shed, Cheryl.
Well, my she shed's on fire.
The she shed was struck by lightning.
Zachary, is my she shed covered by State Farm?
Your she shed's covered, Cheryl.
You hear that, Victor? I'm getting a new she shed.
She shear?
Mm-hmm.
That's wonderful news.
Home insurance trusted by more people than any other. State Farm.
Discover new San Pellegrino Essenza, a twist of Mediterranean flavors with the gentle bubbles of San Pellegrino. Add a twist of flavor. San Pellegrino Essenza, tastefully Italian.
Capital One knows life doesn't update you about your credit card. So meet Eno, the Capital One assistant that catches things that might look wrong and helps you fix them. Another way Capital One is watching out for your money when you're not. What's in your wallet?
If something happened to you, what would happen to them? Their home, their education, their future. You need life insurance, and chances are SelectQuote can help you get it for less than $1 a day.
SelectQuote found Jacob 40, a $500,000 policy for only $19 a month. And SelectQuote found his wife Wendy a $500,000 policy for only $17 a month.
Our secret? At SelectQuote, we aggressively comparison shop up to 10 highly rated companies to find you the company with the best rates.
We found Gary, 35, a $1 million policy for only $22 a month.
Why pay more? Give your family the security they need at a price you can afford.
Call 1-800-852-9312 or go to SelectQuote.com now and get the insurance your family needs.
At a price you can afford. SelectQuote. We shop, you save.
Within our worst natural disasters are unseen stories of survival. New episodes of Defying Death, Heroes and Survivors, Sunday nights at 9, here on the Weather Channel.
Get in for lunch now at Olive Garden with lunch duos starting at $6.99. Choose a favorite like lasagna or all new pasta bowls like shrimp scampi, paired with unlimited soup or salad and breadsticks. Get never-ending value for lunch at Olive Garden.
Now you can make any morning of the week feel like the weekend with Jimmy Dean Simple Scrambles, made fresh with 2 real eggs, sausage, and cheese, and ready in seconds.
Why don't you put a Sunday morning shine on tomorrow morning's breakfast?
A flash flood watch is in effect. Currently in our area, 76 degrees with rainy conditions. Tonight, thunderstorms likely, low 74. 1 to 2 inches of rain expected. Friday, a stray shower or thunderstorm is possible early. Partly cloudy skies, high 87. Here's our 7-day outlook.
Tropical storm Barry is strengthening, getting better organized over the northern Gulf of Mexico. It's still tapping into that really warm water of the Gulf of Mexico and not moving very much. Here are the latest numbers from the intermediate public advisory from 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 Central. The maximum sustained winds increased 5 miles an hour from earlier up to 45. The pressure down to 1,001. And the number that I like the least, west at only 3 miles per hour. And as Mark and I were talking about earlier, that's a generous 3, because really in the last few hours has not been moving very much at all. It's expected to resume that westward motion shortly. Eventually it will move, but it's just never going to be a fast mover, and that is all bad because it gives it more time over the warm waters of the Gulf to strengthen, and it lengthens the duration of the heavy rainfall event, and that's going to pose a very significant life-threatening flash flood situation. We've had hurricane hunters out there all evening, and they've been giving us a pretty good idea of what's going on inside the circulation here, such as it is. It is still a developing tropical storm. It's still got some disorganization to it, but it's been getting its act together a little bit. bit, had the NOAA plane and the Air Force plane. The NOAA plane has been out there for a few hours, and it has done an alpha pattern and is now in the northeastern quadrant. The Air Force plane has gone northeast to southwest. Now they're in that southern strongest part of the circulation, we think, and we'll see if that prompts the Hurricane Center, based on any data there, to increase the winds a little more at 11 p.m. Let's skip ahead here and go to the cone and show you what it tells you and what it doesn't tell you, okay? This does tell us that there's going to be a slow turn to the right, and that is going to put a lot of folks on the really nasty long duration, wet side, rainy side of this system. It's forecast to reach hurricane strength just as it's getting to the coastline. That may or may not happen, but that's what is forecast. And when you compare that forecast to the rainfall predictions from the models, you can see that the European model that goes down the middle has a lot of rain in the middle and the right-hand side of the cone, including outside of the cone. The GFS, the track's farther right, so the rainfall is farther right. Bottom line, we don't know exactly who's going to get the worst of the rainfall, and there are so many possible tracks based on the European ensembles, these alternative scenarios, that a lot of people are at risk. And it is vital that you understand that flooding is going to be life-threatening likely tomorrow, and then the big day, unfortunately, would be Saturday when we have a high risk in Baton Rouge and New Orleans, Mark.
Yeah, so we keep stressing, Dr. Knabb, that flooding is far and away the biggest risk that will impact the most amount of people. But it's not the only risk. We've said that wind may be kind of lowest on the list, but it's also not zero. So let's talk a little bit about that wind component. There are indeed hurricane warnings where someone in this purple zone could have hurricane conditions as that storm, the center of Barry, comes on shore. I think many more of you are going to see tropical storm force winds. In fact, the percentage chances of seeing hurricane force winds at any one point within this area is reasonably low. 5 to even 10%, just about the highest it goes. However, we are talking about at least that chance of hurricane force winds. The tropical storm force winds go a little bit further towards the north. And now they do include the New Orleans area, for example, with that tropical storm force wind threat. And we will continue to follow that much further inland. There's going to be an inland wind threat with this also, which also means power outage potential. So again, here's that low chance of hurricane force winds at any given point, but the tropical storm force winds are much more likely, and that's why we have tropical storm force winds that are in the warnings that are a little bit further inland and a little bit more spread out in aerial extent. Let's talk a little bit more about how everyone's getting ready. Louisiana continues to prepare for Tropical Storm Barry. The Department of Transportation crews were out and about, clearing out the culverts, scooping out mud into the dump trucks as well. And so that way, when all that rain does come down, it has an easier time leaving. And that's really the ideal scenario. We want as much of that water as possible to go into the storm drains and leave. That said, Dr. Knabb, I think there's a limit as to how much a storm drain is going to be able to take on, considering how wet the soils are and how much rain there has been.
A lot of communities will probably be overwhelmed by the heavy rainfall and the flooding. That's why it's a stay off the roads and shelter in place if you're not in a storm surge zone being told to evacuate, and then be ready to call 911 if you're trapped in your home. I mean, that's the situation we're facing. That's how serious this is.
Assuming that there is flooding on the way, what should people do now when there's still the luxury of time, when we're still on that drier north side? People can go to the store tonight or tomorrow morning.
Yeah. Well, considering the wind threat that you just talked about and the possibility of power outages, you could be isolated by flooding in a location that's without power. So be thinking, for example, out of the box a little bit here on the supplies list that you might go shopping for tonight, because yes, the weather's going to go downhill in Louisiana tomorrow. Be thinking about things that you need, considering how reliant we are on technology. For power loss, if you don't have a generator yet and you have the resources to get one tonight and operate it outdoors away from windows, please. Get a stash of cash. Go to the ATM because they might be down, and then you can't use your credit card when the power is out. You're going to need cash to buy things in the aftermath of the storm. Get gas tonight, because when the power is out, the gas stations aren't working. Back up your computers off-site and get solar-powered USB chargers. Those phones are critical afterwards, but you're not going to be able to charge them in the outlet if the power's out.
The solar power is a great idea, though. The sun comes out eventually after that rain ends.
That's right.
Our continuing coverage will be up next. Paul Goodlow live in New Orleans. We got storm specialist Carl Parker, as well as Ray Stajic, and Cinco is here as well.
And Doug.
What do all all these people have in common, Limu? Exactly. Nothing. They're completely different people. That's why they need customized car insurance from Liberty Mutual. They'll only pay for what they need. Yes, and they could save a ton. You've done it again, Limu. Only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Every day, millions of people look